Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Snap Judgments. I, with a head cold, am BlueSky. I am joined today by without a head cold, but I hope I give it to him despite his long distance relationship status. It's Nick, the Greek Geek. He's also in a long distance relationship with his own screen name. How you doing, Nick?
I am. It is too long, and I can't do anything about it. What am I going to do? Hey, No Lux Given is perfect. Like I just should have cut off a few characters, but oh well. What can I say?
Well,
How are you, Glazer? How outside of the head cold? How is Vietnam for you today?
Vietnam has been great. I love Vietnam, but I also love spoiling who the guest is for anyone who didn't look at that thumbnail closely way earlier than we're supposed to. So with that said, I guess it is time to introduce our special guest. It is Lux Given. It's No Lux Given. How you doing, Lux?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. I've wanted you on forever. You are one of the content creators I followed before Marvel Snap. I watched your Storybook Brawl content.
Yeah, I was just telling my partner about that. Yeah, it's unfortunately can't really play that game anymore, but we're both having a lot of fun playing Marvel Snap now.
So I've been playing, and it's very much money grabbier than Storybook Brawl, which had no monetization plan. Arcane Rush is they're all Hearthstone Battlegrounds, right?
Right.
But Arcane
right.
Rush has been a really, really fun replacement for me.
Yeah, that's mobile only.
No, Steam too.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I didn't realize it was on Steam.
Yeah,
I just recently launched on Steam, right?
I think so, because I think that's why they gave me money to advertise them.
Gotcha.
But like at the end of the day, I'm still playing it. Like I play it on my phone all the time when I go. It's my pooping game because I have to care about rank and shit at least a little bit in Marvel Snap, right? Like Marvel Snap's a perfect pooping game, but like because I'm a content creator, I have to care about that. I would love to do Arcane Rush content, but seemingly no one will watch it, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll just play it.
Yeah, that's cool. I big fan of the auto battler genres. That's I would say that's like my favorite genre, but Snap definitely brought me back in a little bit to the traditional card game format. And yeah, but otherwise I'd say I generally prefer auto battlers.
I just don't like TFT. Like I've only ever really played
auto
battlers that work like that and TFT. Yeah, TFT makes my brain hurt.
Yeah. I'm playing mostly Battlegrounds, and then there's another one that just came out to Steam called Once Upon a Galaxy.
Oh, I heard that was really good.
Yeah, that's it's from the creators of Storybook Brawl. So if you're looking for another potential fix there,
I'll check it out.
What's it called again?
Yeah,
Once Upon a Galaxy.
Galaxy. Nice.
So I'm waiting for Hearthstone to decide they'd like to give me money to promote their games. So I'm going to avoid anything Hearthstone related until they decide, because sooner or later they'll be like, maybe your audience will play my game. And I'm like, yes, I will happily do that. But that's my holdup for Hearthstone. Literally the only holdup. If Hat was still employed properly by them, I would just bother Hat and be like, Hat, make them pay me.
Yeah.
However, no one cares about this but me. So instead, let's talk about what people do care about. How can people find you?
So I am mostly just a YouTube content creator. I've streamed on Twitch in the past, but generally I prefer edited and highlight clips. So I stick to YouTube videos, youtube.com/NoLuxGiven, and I post a variety of different content and a variety of Marvel Snap content. I do super competitive stuff, which I know we're going to talk about a lot in this podcast, and I also do a lot of casual and fun stuff, any of challenges that viewers will comment or different things like that, and really just run the whole gamut of Snap stuff.
Please make sure you're following our guest No Lux Given. He is awesome. Again, I have watched his content longer than Marvel Snap has existed and continue to do so to this day. Someone whose content I don't watch because I raid him and then I go to sleep. I guess I watch him on this podcast is Nick the Greek Geek. Nick.
Hi, that's me.
How can people find you?
Difficultly, apparently. Generally Fridays after the pod I stream. I do plan on streaming more often, but it seems like it has been focused on after the pod for the last little while. So I'm okay with that. We'll start with that and then move from there. But I'm either there or I'm in someone else's stream somewhere else.
That's a fair point. You can also find Nick on the Snap Judgments League Discord. on the Power on Discord, on the Marvel Snap Discord, on the Discord. I think he just like lives on Discord outside of streams. And also, if you want Nick, we record this podcast live every Friday night, or most every Friday night. I think I'm going away in 2 weeks on Friday. We'll figure that out later. Almost every Friday night on Twitch. If you would like to watch the 100 mistakes that happen before we get it right, instead of the wonderfully pseudo edited version that we put on YouTube and all the podcast apps, please make sure you check out twitch.tv/PulseGlazer. Statistically, you are most likely watching this on that very YouTube, but if you are not, Snap Judgments Pod on YouTube is how you can find us there. Snap Judgments Pod is where I post a video every single day. We haven't missed a video since we started, which is, I believe, March 6th, 2023. So it's been quite a run of all the videos. There's other places you can find us, but those are the big two. So find us there, and if you have Twitter, do yourself a favor for your mental health and delete that shit. All good?
All good.
We have a ridiculously big OTA to talk about, like super duper huge OTA to talk about. Am I overselling that? Because I don't think I am. First, do you agree, before we even talk about the changes, do you agree that this OTA is absolutely massive? No Lux.
I think there have certainly been bigger OTAs, but I do think that this one leaves a lot of things to talk about. So I think that that's like an interesting distinction. I do think, a nerf to one of the most played cards in the game is certainly going to just by default make it a pretty big OTA. But yeah, there's I think certainly a lot to talk about regarding that one specifically too.
Nick?
Yeah, this one came as a bit of a shock. It's as usual, they're nerfing the cards around the card. That's the actual problem, but I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing here. I think, things like the change to Ghost are huge. To take a card that is basically just an old card that has been languishing and putting it as a nice countermeasure to the end of turn stuff, I think is really cool. And it's balanced because it's a non-reveal, so you can be blocked by Cosmo, but it still has some counterplay versus what it was before. So everything else I think is, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how it all pans out.
All right, well, I guess we're going to talk about Ghost first. So Ghost is a full redesign. It goes from a 3/5 to a 3/4. On reveal, remove the abilities from end of turn cards here. Lux, fire.
So the I think most interesting thing about this change to me was brought to my attention. So I did a little OTA review the other day on my channel with Kingpin, and they brought up, I don't know how much we talk about like future cards here and stuff, but the next season pass card is an end of turn card. And this is sort of preemptively potentially a little bit of an answer to a card that looks pretty good with Viv Vision. It's like end of turn, you get a Nakia effect if you're winning the location, I believe.
Correct.
So yeah, Ghost just being able to remove.
She moves.
If you're losing it, she moves, right? And then Ghost just being able to remove all of that from the card. I think all of that is sweet. Otherwise, I think Ghost is kind of like a new flavor of Killmonger in a weird way, just because the end of turn decks don't often, at the very least, have Havoc on the board before the final turn. Sometimes it's Sunspot and Thena. So removing the text from those cards could get you a little bit of extra power. I don't think it's anything crazy, but I don't think Ghost was a card that I've certainly been playing at all before this, so I'm happy to see it at least have a potential use now.
Nick, do you have any follow-up thoughts to your original?
No, I think it's just a good change to a card that I think has some meta relevance now. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I don't think the card is actually good until Viv comes out. I think it's great once Viv comes out because I think Viv would have been the best card in the game. Like Viv with fundamentally no counterplay. I mean, I guess pseudo. What's her name? Mercury. I want to say misery every time I say Mercury.
Right, sure.
That I should not. They have nothing in common except a few syllables. But whatever. I think that Ghost is really, really great for that card, and I think it's really, really generally useless right now. I think it's kind of still a bad card.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I don't know the name, but there is another card we're getting this season though that Ghost is actually
Uh-huh.
kind of preempting a little bit, and I can't remember the name of it. I believe it's
Cosmic
a
Ghost
5/7.
Rider.
Cosmic Ghost Rider. Thank you. Yeah, so that was another card that we were about to just get. We still are about to just get with some potential answers to end of turn effects. So the timing is actually a little bit interesting from Second Dinner for them to basically give us a free copy of a card that they were potentially going to have to pay for in a week or two.
Well, stuff like Victoria Hand exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, right
Oh
now,
yeah, yeah,
there's going to be a lot of Scream decks around. There's a lot of Bullseye stuff. First Ghost Rider just hits a lot more stuff.
yeah.
I think that difference is relevant. Obviously, right now it feels like end of turn is everything, but give it a couple weeks and it won't, right? Like the other stuff that gets really, really good um will end up making the first Ghost Rider matter. There's just a lot of stuff you set up early that you just line up dominoes, right? That like all fall at the end of the game and then it wins you the game. That's a
And
Bullseye deck. That's the Ghost decks. That's a lot of Victoria Hand stuff. And being able to first Ghost Rider and say nope is going to make that card really good, I think, even though I think people are sleeping on it.
yeah, I think once we get Cosmic Ghost Rider too, it's nice that they both have the word ghost in them. Now there's a thematic tie-in. But yeah, I think that we might not see as much ghost. We might see the ghost disappear again, but we'll see.
I don't think we're going to see any Ghost right now. I think again, like I think people are going to test it, realize how hard it is to hit anything of value, and then
Yeah.
drop it. But I also think people are going to use it wrong because no one's actually talking about this at all. But nearly as much of a problem as Invisible Woman First Steps is Fantasticar. Fantasticar always plays for like 13, 15 power. Like you play a Sunspot, a Hydra Bob, and a Thena, and that's a 13 power card for 4. That's more than Galacta, that's more than Gwenpool, and you almost always play more than 3 end of turn cards.
Well, and you've
Like
got
that,
a 4/7 body on the board too, which is
Yeah.
huge.
well, I'm
Just
counting
big
that in
stats.
the 13 power, right? Because
Right,
that's
right.
7 plus 6 is 13. But yeah, like it's so when we count power, what we very often count is how much of a buff something gives, right? But what the base power is still counts. It's total power that this thing adds to the board that makes cards good or bad, not necessarily whether it happens to be in one lane or not. And we like overrate that a lot. Part of the reason, like when we're like Doom is so good for so long, Doom is like one of the perfect 6 drops. He's amazing, was because he was a 6/15. And all the other
Right.
6s that were really good were like 6/10s, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh, really? The one that gives 5 more power is good. 5 more power is a lot. Like so,
Right.
I think that is a really, really, really relevant thing when we're talking about these cards. And Ghost being a very hard Fantasticar counter, I think, is a very important place for it to live. But because people aren't looking at it that way, they're looking at it as only hitting the 3 scalers:
Right.
Sunspot, Thena, and Havoc. Right? That
Mm-hmm.
they're going to end up missing the boat on exactly what makes this so useful. Because if this takes off a potential 4 power just by hitting a couple 1-drops, even if you're not hitting the big scalers, that you just played Gladiator, right? It's about
Mm-hmm.
the total stats a card generates. And so I think Ghost has potential, but because no one's going to look at it that way, it's going to end up being a really disappointing card.
One thing that I am kind of hoping for Ghost is another Atuma effect, which might sound like a stretch, but Atuma has an end of turn drawback ability. And if there were other cards that had end of turn drawbacks and you could use Ghost proactively to remove abilities that you didn't want while also stopping some of your opponent's things, then I think it could be a really interesting card in the future.
That would be very cool. That'd be very cool. I do hope they do that. I don't think I realized that it affects both players.
Yeah, Cosmic Ghost Rider does not. Cosmic Ghost Rider is only your
Yeah.
opponent's front lane stuff here, but Ghost is symmetrical.
For a 5-drop, you better not have that downside. You know what I mean?
But I wanted to have a downside so then I can build around it. So yeah.
Yeah. So you can go whatever into it.
Martyr or Red Skull. I don't know. Well, I don't know what that is because it's not real.
Well,
but
the curve would be you would want Typhoid in the front too, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you just say, boom, you're done. Okay. Either way, that doesn't exist. Let's talk about what also doesn't exist anymore, which is 2/2 Mr. Fantastic. They changed him to a 3/4. Let's start by talking about him, and then we're going to have a longer conversation about season pass cards, nerfing season pass cards, and the value of money in Marvel Snap. Take us away about the actual Mr. Fantastic card, no less.
So, like I kind of hinted at a few moments ago, Mr. Fantastic First Steps was the most played card in Golden Gauntlet 3. It was about, I think it was like 5/12 of the players played it. So whatever that is, like 45%, somewhere in there. It was a very good card to the point where in synergistic decks, in decks like Move Bounce, this was being played instead of Doctor Strange. And that, I think, does indicate that the card was an issue. Both of those things, right? And this card is obviously very, very strong. And now it's much less strong. So that's like the big news up top for sure.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is still a card that's going to be very highly used. I think the change in cost is obviously a huge impact because getting him down on 2 was incredibly valuable. But I think just having him even as a 3/4, he's got a bigger body on there. And I mean, you play him on 3 and he still has an impact. But, obviously that extra turn can make a humongous difference. I don't know. I've still seen just as much Mr. Fantastic as before he was nerfed, it seems.
Pulse talked about like total power that a card can put out. They basically made this card cost 1 more and did not add any additional power to it because they gave it +2 power, but now it gets 1 less turn to trigger. So it's not giving another card in your hand +2 power, which of course could be like multiplicative power or cost reduction or something. So they basically just gave this an additional energy cost, but didn't add any additional power onto it, which I think kind of hints at how broken it was before.
I think one of the things as well with it is it gives you the flexibility to play something different on 2. I know whenever this was in my hand and turn 2 came up, like there was no option. It was I was playing this card. So in some ways, it removes a little bit of my decision paralysis as to that turn 2 play.
Yeah, I'll save my thoughts on Surge for a moment, but I guess I'll say that I think that this OTA is almost a buff to Surge, as strange as that may sound, just because now you have more of a reason to play Surge on turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a buff to Surge, it's a buff to Merlin, it's a buff to Scream, it's a buff to Sam Wilson. Like, right? It's a buff to all the 2-drops that just fell off in the game. I think that there's a real argument that Merlin ends up being the biggest beneficiary here. Because Merlin was in fundamentally every other deck prior to Mr. Fantastic releasing. Mr. Fantastic was just so good that you really, really, really want to play Merlin on 2, right? But Mr. Fantastic was too good to play on 2, so you never want to play Merlin on 2, so you just cut him from most decks.
I think that's a good point, especially because like the cards that you want to play with Merlin aren't necessarily cards that you want to play with Mr. Fantastic. So yeah, it gives a lot more space for the Merlin decks to breathe.
And it makes sense. I've seen a lot more Merlin as well. Like he's been a lot more prolific.
Well, Merlin wants to be played generally with low power stuff you want to either throw into your deck or make a bigger thing, right? And Mr. Fantastic wants to sort of ramp up your bigger things or make your bigger things cheaper. So that counter synergy was real. As far as where Mr. Fantastic is now, I think the honest answer is probably Surfer and occasionally End of Turn. I don't think, and Buff. He's
still great in End of Turn.
He's better Fastos.
Yep.
Right? Like that's all he is. He's better Fastos. They can delete Fastos now though. Right, just give us 6,000 tokens and call it a day, or 4,000, I guess he's serious for. But like that, they finally, after like a year, made Fastos viable, and then they're like, what if we made the exact same card, exact same stats, but just better? Thanks, great. I don't really want to do that. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. I'm not sure how good he is, to be perfectly honest. Again, outside of those 2 homes, I generally want to be doing other stuff with my 3s. I can play him in those decks, right? But like, do I want to play him over Negasonic or Juggernaut or Gladiator? If I'm desperate for something to do on 3, he might be the best 3 on 3. But even then, like, there's so much more competition at 3-drop for that kind of thing. And when you're not sure what upside you're getting, I genuinely think this is a ridiculously huge nerf. I think he went from the best card in Marvel Snap to a card I don't think I'd have in the top 50. And I think that's about as big a nerf as you can give.
And I almost think to that exact point, they might see a little bit of a buff on Mr. Fantastic in the future, just because I think that this is a good face card for the game. I loved the new Fantastic Four movie, and
me too.
I think Pedro is going to be like a big face of the MCU for a little bit, and this is a card that they should probably want to be good. And I think that we could see it turn around a little bit if his numbers really fall off.
Yeah, there's that difficulty with nerfing those season pass cards when people have paid money for them. You want to keep people wanting to pay money. And if you're going to nerf the card immediately afterwards and it's going to take it down so much that it's almost not played, that's, I think, a bad precedent to set. I agree, he's probably was too powerful, but I think that's why you need to balance out, like for their balance team, they need to do that pre-balancing, I think, a little bit better so that the cards aren't, the only option is to make them like a quarter of their strength that they were before.
I mean, in fairness, I called this card being the best card in the game. I thought this was going to be Surge, but our friend Cam Best is pretty good at Marvel Snap, and he thought this would be worse than Surge. So, like, there's reasonable ways to, like, look at this card and go, like, because if it released as Surge, right, like, if it instead of being so much better than Surge, that Surge became an afterthought, if it released and we were like, oh, this is about as good as Surge, we're not having this conversation. I think them being wrong here is totally reasonable. That's not my complaint in the slightest. This is the first, and, like, I don't think they over nerf season pass cards. They nerf a lot of season pass cards, and Nolux has some data for us for that. But they often nerf them long after the season pass is over, or they nerf it by a point or two. The last season pass card, I think, and Nolux, correct me if I'm wrong, of any value that they nerfed, like that they really nerfed, was Agent Venom.
Yeah, I think that's wrong.
But tell me.
What's the last one? There's been 2 other nerfed season pass cards since then that have had like nerfs that really made them drop off. One had multiple. Sam Wilson is still seeing a lot of play, but he had a lot more synergies when he came out. He was doing a lot of ridiculous stuff.
But he was really, so yes, Sam Wilson was nerfed, but Sam Wilson was nerfed after you got to play with him for about 6 months as the best card in the game.
Is that true? I thought he came out in like February.
He was February. Okay, so he was the best card in February, March, April, and May, and then you can argue in June. He was still great in June. But Merlin started to take his cake in June.
Right.
So a full third of the year as the best card in the game, I think, is a reasonable value to expect for $10.
Snap fans, Sam Wilson. I'm loading up. I got to see like when the release came and when the changes came in for Sam for the receipts here.
The first change happened almost right away. The change to make the shield 0, because they completely forgot Null existed. But that nerf didn't actually make the card see any less play. It just changed the deck.
And then it was the end of, so basically he was out in the season pass for a month and then came out of that, and then so that was in February, and then in March, end of March, he lost 1 power, so that wasn't like that big of a deal. But yeah, it was the shield thing. The other one though was Iron Patriot got less of a reduction on the card that he generated, which did make Iron Patriot, I think, drop off pretty significantly. Also, Iron Patriot dropped off because a bunch of other 2-cost cards came out. So
right. Like, Iron Patriot's drop-off was largely because the Sam Wilson deck changed, right? When that deck was a Prio deck, he was the best card. So, like, I think Iron Patriot is still a genuinely great card. And, like, I don't think either of those match what they did to Mr. Fantastic or what they did to Agent.
That's fair.
I think now the shield going to 0 is the kind of thing. Like, the shield going to 0 power is the kind of thing I'm talking about. And the kind of nerf where the card feels like a fundamentally different card. A 3-4 Mr. Fantastic versus a 2-2 Mr. Fantastic is a different card. Sam Wilson is still the same card. Iron Patriot is still the same card. They're not as overtuned as they were, right? but they're still fundamentally the same card. You put them in fundamentally the same decks that do fundamentally the same thing. Agent Venom decks stopped existing. The kind of deck that Mr. Fantastic was in, he just doesn't go in anymore. These sort of good range mid-range shells are just, he's not in them. He's actively like worse option than running like 17 other things in those decks now. That's like,
I think
what did Sam come out of when he was nerfed? Like Call decks, but like that was an
the Cole decks, so the Scar decks potentially as well. And it's also, I don't know if it's like it. I think that Mr. Fantastic went from the best card in the game to not top 50, like you said. Some of these other cards, Iron Patriot and Sam Wilson, were also best cards in the game during their seasons, though. And I think that aspect does make them comparable for me. Gwenpool, Galacta, best cards during their season when they released. Maybe not all of them like to the same extent as Mr. Fantastic First Steps.
Gwenpool wasn't good for quite a long time. She was an okay card for a while.
Yeah.
And
Galacta
she became
more
good
so,
much
right?
later. Yeah, Galacta was the best card, but she also wasn't nerfed for another 6-7 months, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
I can agree that those are different issues.
Yeah, if you get, and I don't think they're not issues necessarily, right? I just think they're a different conversation than Fantastic.
Yes.
What bothers me about Fantastic that didn't bother me about Agent Venom, because I defended the Agent Venom change, I'll still defend the Agent Venom change, is Agent Venom was an outlier at a level that even Mr. Fantastic was not. Agent Venom felt like the kinds of cards I don't care when they change is when they I cared about Elsa because Elsa was so obviously broken. But like your Elsas, your Lokis, your original Surfers, your Zabus, there's a class of card, right, that Mr. Fantastic straight up does not touch.
Yeah.
Like straight up, he is as good as he is not those cards. He doesn't fundamentally break the game, fundamentally make one deck basically untouchable.
But that's also kind of just because of the card design. Like a lot of the other season pass cards that you named that were noteworthy in how they completely changed the game were build-arounds too, especially with Zabu and Silver Surfer. Like I agree, those months were not fun to play as a free-to-play player. But Mr. Fantastic, you could still play any of the decks that he went in just without him in them, and they'd be worse, of course. But there was no like Mr. Fantastic First Steps deck necessarily.
Right.
Or but there were a bunch of them.
I think that's ultimately a big difference, and that's why I wish they took a lighter hand. Like, what they did was they narrowed him fairly severely. They said, you go in everything. No, you go in maybe 3 things.
That's true, yeah.
Right? Like, that's a really, 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 really big narrowing of a card. Where, like, Agent Venom went in, like, 4 decks, but you couldn't conceivably play anything else. Right? Like, if you wanted to win during the Agent Venom season, you were playing Agent Venom. If you wanted to win when Elsa came out, you were playing Elsa. If you wanted to win when Surfer came out, you were playing Surfer, or then Zabu, because how those 2 things happen back to back, whatever. Right? Like, I think this level of change, without any sort of build-up, this soon after it was in the season pass, is it's an aggressive way to treat your player base. Like, I think it's a very feel bad.
There's 2 types of players that like get affected with this. There's players that got the season pass because they wanted a cool card, so they spent $10. And then there's another group of players that didn't buy the season pass and then bought Mr. Fantastic as soon as you could purchase him with tokens and really didn't get an opportunity to play with him at all. And I think both of those players have a reason, a justification to feel some type of way about this.
Yeah. There are certain cases. I think like changing Surge, changing Havoc, changing White Tiger, changing Ghost don't need any announcement. But I do wish that when they're strongly considering making this type of change to this type of card, they would announce it well in advance. Like, they don't have to do it for everything, but there are certain cards, and that obviously invites borderline cases. But this is, I think, fairly clearly for most reasonable observers across that borderline, right? This is a case where letting the community know would have engendered a lot of goodwill without much backlash. And like, I think the backlash for this is fairly deserved and real.
Yeah, for it to be that quick and that big of a change that pretty much writes him off as the card to choose. Like, I get it. You don't want a crazy powerful 2-drop, and maybe there's something that they know that we don't, that I don't know. But like, I what I love is like cards like Merlin, not been changed. It's been, since the June season. I think that's a good example of a card that is very strong without being overpowered. But I don't know. Could they have done something different with Mr. Fantastic to make him still as strong a season pass card as he was without making him that broken? And without having to nerf him that hard?
Make him a 2/0 first.
So I have a kind of a crazy hot take that I haven't fully thought out all of the implications of. And there's good and bad things to this. But what if, we used to have those events like Valentine's Day and X-Men and stuff like that, where cards would temporarily have an increased power. What if season pass cards just had one extra power during the month that they came out, and then the next month, so that way, like, they get to be a little bit more broken for a month, and then once they're not the season pass, then they just lose a point of power. I think that this is a horrible idea for a number of reasons, but like, is this a better solution than this?
I think that it's a better solution than this. I think it's generally not a problem. I don't think they do a bad job with season pass cards. I don't. Like, nothing anyone has said over the years has convinced me that they do a bad job. They've done a bad job, in my opinion, 5 times with season pass cards. I can list all 5. You know them because I've said them 3 times. Zabu, Surfer, Loki, Elsa, and now Mr. Fantastic First Steps. I think there are a few others that are borderline.
And Agent, you throw an Agent in there too? Or
Agent Venom. I totally forgot Agent Venom. Yep. You're right. You're completely correct. And Agent Venom. Sorry, counting is hard on the spot. You're right. And Agent Venom. But like, everything else has been within the range of acceptable. I hate Iron Patriot's design. Like, absolutely hate it. But I don't think it was bad for the game. I don't think it was a bad idea. Sam Wilson was way too good, which was in no way foreseeable, right? Like, how much stuff he went in was kind of the problem there. Like, I'm not really worried about any of this. I think at the end of the day, we end up fundamentally fine with like all of those cards being in the game, even if they end up changed. I think when you release something that's way too high, or you release something that's just like, or it was Mr. Fantastic. Okay. Mr. Fantastic, I think, is clearly a class better than every other season pass card, but clearly a class below the best, which leaves it in a weird, funky spot.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't really think people that, okay, I do have some issues with Mr. Fantastic. Mostly just the variable unknown point output that he had for such little investment. That made him kind of frustrating to play against. It's like on the final turn, they could just drop, like a 6 power brood for 2 energy. And you don't really have any way that you can expect a play like that compared to any other of their point outputs, depending on like if they snapped or something. So I do think from that aspect, he was frustrating. And yeah.
Oh. Chat notes, King Your notes, that Surtur is probably in this class. I think Surtur is probably in Mr. Fantastic First Steps class.
Yeah, that's fair too. So 7. We're up to 7.
Yeah. Well, no, so I don't think. Well, I don't think that card is in the top class. I think it's in Mr. Fantastic's class. Like, I think Surtur, as good as he was, I don't think Surtur's as good as those other cards. I don't think Surtur at his very best was ever as good as those other cards. He was more, because his deck was so stupidly easy to play. He got played a lot. But like, good players weren't like, I can't beat a Surtur deck. It was, I'm bored of playing in Surtur decks, and there's a really, really big difference.
Yeah. So as a player that I've gone, back and forth a little bit as a free to play player, so I have a little bit of like from that experience, and I think there's another interesting part of this that like is difficult. I never got to play the Surtur Scar decks. Because and that's like kind of fine to be able to, for them to sell unique experiences with the season pass. The other one that's a unique season pass experience is getting to play the original Sam Wilson in the first iteration of Sanctum Showdown. where he was really totally busted, and you could pay $10 and have a much easier time with that limited time game mode that creates a weird gulf between paying and non-paying.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about the disparity and the lack of that connection, I think, from a lot of us that always buy the season pass, when there's quite a few people that can't ever afford that season pass. And I think it's the kind of thing to where I do agree that it does need to be powerful, because you do need to give reasons for people to invest in a game. Like, you've got to give reasons for people to say, I'm going to give you my, I was going to say Netflix subscription, but that's long past the $10 a month limit. But to balance it out to where it doesn't make it to where the people that are free to play don't want to play. This is the crux with these free to play games, is you need to provide a free to play path that is compelling enough to keep people wanting to play, but not excluding them. Because while the whales fund the game, those free to play players need to be there for the whales to play against. And I think making it too much like the Elsa and Loki seasons were an example of, Jesus Lord, this is, if you don't get this, you are at a massive disadvantage, versus Merlin, which was, you're at a disadvantage, but it's not an impossible disadvantage. And I think that's where trying to find that balance is not easy. I don't envy the game designers for this, like, not at all.
People are going to unsubscribe the instant I say this, but I think it's true. Marvel Snap has to be a little pay to win for people to ever spend money. If you can compete at the exact same level without spending money, people will not. And if people will not, then the game will die.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it's just, that's reality. As much as, like, it'd be nice if they just gave us all the cards and then they could stay in business forever and everything would be, like, peachy, and they could completely monetize on cosmetics and yada, 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 then that would be amazing and everyone would prefer that. But that's not reality, and, like, wishing don't make it so. So, like, yeah, season pass cards should probably be a little strong. Like, they should probably try and sell them. Esme probably misses too low, right? We don't and they buffed Carter mid-season for a reason.
Mhm.
These aren't, like, mistakes. They're a business plan, which again is fine. I'm fine with that as a business plan. It's just, when you do get people to spend money, you can't then be like, the way you thought you spent your money doesn't matter anymore. Sorry. Immediately a month after. I understand for the benefit of the game why they did it. I think this is probably the right nerf for the benefit, if that's all that matters. But I don't think you can look at a business and say that's all that matters.
I also, and kind of on the subject of money, they spent the money to create that cool Mr. Fantastic animation with his arms moving around.
Yep.
And for that reason too, I think that if he's not doing well, I think that this is a card that they will make right and go back a little bit. He's got 4 different numbers on him, so there's definitely some room where he can get tweaked still. Whether that's like a card in your hand gets +1 power and taking some power off of him and moving him back to 2 potentially. I think that could be reasonable.
Yeah, I expect that this is going to be something that they'll be adjusting soon if the backlash continues to be as severe, just because I think they made it clear that they were just testing this out. You don't think they're going to...
I think they're done with Kid Omega at saying they give a shit what we think, and they're going to try and train us that what we think doesn't matter. As annoying as that is, that's the 100% feeling I've gotten since then. Before that, they were really generous and helpful, and all it got them was a lot of grief. I've been saying this forever, that I thought eventually we were just going to be jerks about too many small things, and they were going to stop being generous. And I think we've hit that threshold where they're just like, we keep trying to be nice to these people, and like every time we make a small mistake, they act like the sky is falling, and now they're just like, fuck it, we're just going to do what we want, and if they complain, they complain.
At the same time, they did give us a new card in the OTA to be a little, optimistic, glass half full, with Ghost getting that new ability. So yeah, I think they're.
I don't think that's the end of the world or a bad thing necessarily long term.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, ready. Surge is a 2/1. Does this go in every deck now instead of Mr. Fantastic?
Yeah, like I said, I think that this OTA is actually a buff to Surge. Gets to see a lot more play again. alongside Zabu potentially, and Mr. Fantastic just isn't taking away that card slot. There were a lot of decks that played both Mr. Fantastic and Surge before that were kind of a new space, but I think that classic combo of Surge plus Zabu has a lot more room to breathe now. Classic combo, but
Wait, can you Surge Zabu and just say I played 2 energy on turn 1 and 2? 2 power on turn 1 and 2? Is that too big of a tempo hit? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you only got to win 2 locations. These are not
really?
like
Shit. Sorry.
these are not like super impactful points of power. I mean, I get it. Yeah, and it adds up when both of those cards that you want to play have received nerfs. But if you're getting -1 cost, you can still make up for that, I think.
Okay. Nick?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think this is it's nice that Surge is kind of back. I still don't think she's as strong as she was, which is odd, because the knock of power shouldn't cut it. But it just feels like once we got the bonus with Mr. Fantastic, it kind of, there's a Toy Story Spike or Andy dropping the toy away. But now Surge is back, and I've seen more Surge now than I had before, but I was still seeing Mr. Fantastic and Surge in a lot of the same decks, and I'm interested in seeing what that changes now.
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic and Surge were in the same decks, but if you drew both, you just played Fantastic. Right? Like, it's not like you weren't, like, Surge was getting cut. It's just you had 2 cards in hand, and one of them was better, so you played the better card. And then you would just never play Surge, because Surge from 3 on is a mediocre card. I think this matters more than people think by a lot. Surge, there's a lot of games where you don't play the Surge card, or you don't play more than 2 Surge cards. At that point, you played a 2-3 for some discounts. Like, that's not great.
The Surge, I did see some people have Mr. Fantastic in the sort of Werewolf by Night deck. Surge is an on reveal, does have like a little bit more synergy in there. But it's not really getting too much extra utility. Yeah, it's definitely worse for sure.
It's not bad, right? That's not my claim. I think that people, as always, like Chad is doing it right now, severely underestimate 1 power on Marble Snap, especially on lower power cards, right? Like the difference between 11 and 12 isn't always a ton, but yeah, the difference between a 1 and a 2 is absolutely humongous. Like, it just ends up mattering a lot more than people think. There's so many fringe cases for that, especially because like cards with low power are trying to generate their power in other ways, and Surge is an inconsistent way to generate that extra power. And by lowering that floor, I think it's a real hit.
You can't like use it to change a location you were losing by 1 to a win, on the final turn, which is just like a clear example of something a cheap card can do for a little more utility on the final turn. But can't do that with Mr. Fantastic now either. So
a lot of that used to happen really early in the game too, right? Like, we don't think of it as the same as playing it last turn, but where you played it on too and how your opponent competes there matters. Your opponent is counting, ideally. Your opponent is counting and you're counting, right? And now, like, just knowing that is less power is important. It means I need this can win that lane, not that, right? Like, I can play, and I'm going to use a really weird example. Sorry, it's what came to mind. I can play Lizard there. I have Lizard and Maximus. I can play Lizard there and not Maximus, right? And now my Maximus, I can put more power elsewhere to win that lane. That kind of thing really matters in terms of investment. And it really matters more, like, let's use a more realistic example. You have a Stardust that you're going to play at the end of the game. That's a 4/7, and you have whatever 2/4 in hand, right? If that 2/4 wins and that 4/7 can go elsewhere, now, like, that's a fundamental difference in how you've managed that game and how you've played that game, and you've won a game where you otherwise couldn't necessarily, right? Because that extra power can now go where it will matter, and that really does change a lot of games in Marvel Snap. Like, it's just, this is still probably a top 10-ish card, but I think it's like fairly strictly worse than Merlin now. I think having 2 less power than Merlin means it's just a worse card.
Yeah, now it's more likely to be your polymorph or once and future target, which could be useful. The main 2 decks that I think about when I think about Surge, the first one is Thanos. which I think it's still doing some fantastic work in a deck like that with the stones. And then the other one is whatever you think the best Zabu deck is that isn't like a tech Zabu, which my mind kind of goes to like the Affliction Zabu that played a bunch of 4s with Ajax. And both of those two decks specifically, I don't feel like it's that big of a hit, though there is some exceptions with it, like the Thanos deck. If you're going to have a bunch of small power stones, another tiny small power card could be a liability.
So it narrows the card. Like much the same way the Fantastic Change narrowed the card. It says this used to be an every deck card or an almost every deck card because why not? And says now you want it for specific reasons. Yeah. Which again, I think I'm much more fine with Surge than Fantastic, and I also think it's a much lighter change to Surge than Fantastic.
Yeah, agreed. That extra cost is like with power, adding an extra cost to a card. Like that's something that people seem much more ready to accept and understand. Is hey, this card is more expensive, it just gets dropped. Like you look at what happened to a lot of cards, you increase their cost by 1, they're out of the deck. Power, I think, is a little bit harder to understand, I think, as a whole. But cost is where things get really challenging. If they had increased Search's power and cost, like that would have been, I think, a death knell for her.
Yeah, I think that Marvel Snap players fundamentally do not understand what 1 power means in a very real way. Like the amount of time my comments are 1 power, who cares? And then that 1 power means everyone care is wild. Even like sometimes I'm like a 1 power, I don't care for specific cards. I'm going to shout out MODOK, where I thought 1 power really wouldn't matter, and it ended up mattering a lot. 1 power in Marvel Snap is a massive amount. When you're dealing with such small numbers, 1 power is a lot of the time. Not always, but close enough. Like, right, like it didn't super matter for Cannonball. But, like, generally speaking, like, it matters far more often than it doesn't. Havoc is now a 2-1 that gives +3 instead of 2-0 that gives +4. Where do you land on Havoc? Mr. Gibbon?
Yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on this one because I haven't played it all with the end of turn deck. Obviously, it's not an issue for people that are like just trying to play normal games with Havoc, but when you're trying to do the ridiculous 4 end of turn abilities in a turn or more, then it's a significant number that adds up. So it's fair, yeah. I think that it's interesting to like nerf the card that was in the deck, that's been in the game and hasn't seen much play at all for, maybe half a year at this point, whenever Agent Venom had initially released. So I don't know if it really needed to be the flag bearer here, but they also took a power off of Sunspot a few weeks ago. So they're just kind of cleaning up a few of these end of turn cards.
Yeah, I think this is an overall good thing to happen. I think it's frustrating because you're right. He was a card that hadn't seen really any play at all, and he's gotten a lot more now. But that's the second dinner way: is we're not going to nerf the brand new card that came out. We're going to nerf the cards around it first, see if we can take it down a little bit. And like you were saying, Glazer, 1 point matters. This is huge when you're, say, putting him down on turn 5 or on turn 6. Not getting 8 power in a single turn. That's massive.
The first turn you play him, he's getting the exact same power.
Right. It's the first turn because he has the initial 1 power, and then everything after that reduces that power by 1. Which, so if you get him down on 4 rather than having,
right. But the 4 was an edge case in the first place, right? Like you even in the original Athena Havoc list, like you could play him on 4, but that was like the expert level play, right? Like when to do that versus when to not was really, really, really hard. Like Derek had that master, but I don't think the general player base was anything close to it. Like people would drop Havoc on 5 on me in that deck, or drop Havoc on 4 on me in that deck, and I'd be like, no. That's like, no, if you had that should have been last turn. Or like they would drop it on 4 and I'd be like, no, you just lost the game. You don't have enough to compete, right? Like it's a real like challenge. I don't Okay. Well, let's talk about the card itself, and then I want to talk about its context. +4 is a lot. Nothing else in Marvel Snap gets +4.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And just like if you're trying to like future proof it or something, like
Mhm.
you can't. You need to rein in like that aspect of it. And I do understand that it's like you can't nerf
It was
Invisible Woman
always
just because there's this one weird outlier that
it
gets
was always a
+4.
matter of time. It was always a
Yeah.
matter of time before this became +3. Sooner or later, something was going to break this. We said this was data mine. +4 is a lot. +3s almost always get nerfed, right? There's no
Yeah,
way that
that's
they were going to
true.
be like, oh, here's a +4 that's going to last forever. This was going to happen. But
Mhm.
if you play this on turn 5, you've lost 1 power in the game. I think that is ultimately fine.
And I mentioned like no one else was really playing Havoc. It was seeing play in, I guess, like an Agent Venom deck or something,
Yeah,
if
the
those
small
still
ball list.
existed. So like if if some like super fringe deck is taking a hit, it's really even like not that big of a deal almost. So it's kind of like a free card to nerf because yeah, sure, there might be somebody out there that complains. And I'm trying to think of like a specific example when they've nerfed another card recently and then someone chimes in and like, oh, you just nerfed
That happens
my
all the time. All the
right.
time in my comments. Yeah.
Like somebody could complain, right, that any random deck got nerfed that nobody's actually playing, and
Oh,
that's
it's
probably
usually it
fine.
pulled it out of my Cerebro X
Yes,
number. And it's
great
like,
example. Great
yeah,
example. Yes, I can no longer play White Tiger in my Cerebro 8. I'm pissed, or
yeah,
whatever. But
exactly.
You laugh, but I
just to
Here's
be
guarantee
Cerebro
the
9
most
time,
fringe
baby.
as we possibly can
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
So
all it would take is 5 seconds. I'm sure we could find 50 people complaining about the White
So wait,
Tiger change in their Cerebro.
Invisible Woman is played. Invisible Woman decks play Havoc on turn 6, right? Like almost always, not always, but like if they can afford to, they want to play it on turn 6 because they want the extra energy on turn 5. That's extra energy overall, right? Like it. They'll play it on turn 5
Sunspot even.
occasionally. Yeah. Like lots of different small reasons. It ends up being a turn 6 play a massive amount of the time. It's occasionally turn 5 play. On turn 6, with a single Invisible Woman trigger, it's gotten 1 less power. Right? Like, because it's still getting the same power on its first trigger. What this is actually a nerf to is the Prodigy decks, the Prodigy Invisible Woman
Or
decks.
Frigga,
And I
yeah.
think, yeah, the copy Invisible Woman decks.
Yeah.
Whatever. Through whatever means you want to. I think that's a fair thing to nerf.
Totally.
Like, at the end of the
Totally.
day, because
Agreed.
that's the thing that really gets hit here. 1 less power matters, right? But I think 1 less power is a reasonable change to make. 3 less power is a lot. Going from 16 to, I want to say 13, maybe 12,
Yeah.
13, yeah, right, is a lot. That's a huge change. This is no
And
longer
13
like
still a lot. 13
yes.
still a bigger number.
That was the next thing I was going to say. Yeah, it's that 13. It's that 13 is still enough that I don't think like I think that like if you are that mad about this, you're just being kind of greedy because this is a perfectly acceptable change.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think it
this
takes
one
it out
just
of the
makes
deck
sense.
either, right? Like,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. There's only 3
Yeah.
skeletons.
Oh, yeah,
It
no.
stays in.
Yeah.
He's
So-
still a must in any of those end of turn decks. Like Havoc is an amazing cheap scaler that you can just toss down and can't really be accounted for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it's a nerf that will have an impact, and that's a good thing. Like, I don't think there's a way around that.
Yeah, look, on the last turn, being able to say I spend 2 energy and have 16 power wherever I want is really hard to beat. Because, like, 2 energy means you're playing 16 power here and unknown power X there. And, like, come on.
Yep.
Like, 13 will be fine. You'll be okay. Also, I guess this is a decent place to say this. There'll probably be a video out that I mentioned this in. But I was at 97 last time I did stream. Last night, I was like, I wonder if Invisible Woman First Steps decks are still good. I built a random one, the Prodigy version, and in 4 games, I was infinite. I won 2 8-cubers and then a 1-cuber and a 4-cuber. And it was just like, oh, what the hell? This does not feel significantly worse. I feel like the power level of those this is our last end of turn card, so this is a good point for this conversation, by the way. But I feel like the power level of those decks has gone down in a real way, but because of the lack of Mr. Fantastic First Steps. Oh, and I kept Mr. Fantastic First Steps in the deck because I was too lazy to change it. I was like, yeah, it sounds end of turn, whatever. But Mr. Fantastic First Steps not being as strong, Surge not being as strong, lowers the overall power level of the meta. So I think while the power level of those decks has gone down, fewer people are teching against it because they think it's worse. And the overall power level of the meta has gone down, which makes, I think, the deck honestly better than ever.
Yeah, the most ghosts that I saw were that first day and a half afterwards, and then ghosts just kind of dropped off. I did see a few, but yeah, I think
Has it been 24 hours since the OTA?
it has. Oh, maybe it has been.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Time is weird. No, I guess it's just been over. It's been 24 plus 3 hours, so maybe not a day and a half.
As
but
of recording. Okay, sorry. I don't know how time is messed up for me.
Yes, it is a little strange being on the other side of the world. But I mean, I saw quite a few ghost decks. People on streams. There was a ghost here and there, but those games you just leave. Like if they snap and ghost comes down, you go. And there's going to be enough people that aren't teching against it that don't pull ghost that I think it's fine.
I do think, and
go for it.
And this doesn't really make any sense, but when you filter through the collection and you sort by ongoing, Mystique comes up because she has the word ongoing in her text. Like, if you search for end of turn, Invisible Woman First Steps is going to come up. Should Ghosts also just specifically stop Invisible Woman First Steps? Is that too weird? Because she is an end of turn card. She's just not a card with an end of turn ability.
I've never been entirely sold Invisible Woman First Steps is a huge problem. I'm just not. I'm going to need more time. Like, I think it's one of the best decks, but I think that fair Invisible Woman First Steps decks, i.e. not doubling her, are in the contention for the best decks, but not necessarily the best. And I think the double her decks are hard enough to pull off for anyone trying remotely to counter them, that I'm not super crazy about it. It feels very bullseye to me. Where, like, I would probably just take a power off her and let Cosmic Ghost Rider come out and see.
Yeah. And there are other ways. We saw Cannonball as like a counter to her in some specific ways in the Golden Gauntlet. Juggernaut can break up a Prodigy if he can land that.
Because she has to trigger at the end of the game, you just have a lot of information and power over what happens, right?
That's true too.
Like, it's just, she's fairly often the biggest thing in her lane. Like, I think she's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I think the 3 best cards in Marvel Snap as of today are Merlin, Invisible Woman First Steps, and Juggernaut. I could be convinced of other cards being in that contention, but nothing immediately springs to mind. I'm not saying she's bad. I think she's overpowered at a level that I find acceptable for a short term when we know we have a tech card that answers her very specifically coming out in 2 weeks. Because if you're not putting her in the front lane, right?
Then you can't double her.
You can't double her, and now
the
problem case is gone. And I do think Cosmic Ghost Rider is great, regardless of Invisible Woman. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Cosmic Ghost Rider does nothing, and I have to eat these words. But that's where I land right now.
I was just thinking to myself earlier of like some weird puzzles where you could use the Sam Wilson shield to make it look like Invisible Woman isn't in the front of a location and then move her to the front, similar to like Captain Carter tricks. It's probably not worth it, but
if you're doing that, like, great. Like, now I don't even care that Invisible Woman's great, right? Like, you have to have drawn Sam Wilson on curve. You're not doing other end of, like, fine, okay, so be it. Right? Like, at the end of the day, if that's where you end up, I'm perfectly happy. Also, the card that actually needs to be nerfed that wasn't nerfed is White Tiger needs to be a 1/4. Just do it.
Oh, 4/1? Did you say the wrong card?
No, I said White Tiger. I meant Black Cat. Sorry, White Tiger is on the screen in front of me.
Agreed.
Oh, okay.
Black Cat needs to be a 1/4. Excuse me.
Black Cat. Yeah.
Black Cat absolutely needs to, like, fundamentally immediately be a 1/4. Like, it's 1/5 is too much for that card.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to have a drawback right now.
I mean, sometimes I play it when I'd rather play something else, and I shrug, and then I go, well, I got 5 power, so...
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, no matter what you choose, you still got a 1/5 on the board, and that's pretty darn huge. But yeah, there are times where you have to choose to play her over something else because you don't want to lose that, but...
Well, you were choosing between her and Mr. Fantastic a lot previously, right? You would draw her in that turn, and then you'd be like, huh. And like honestly, that wasn't always an immediate and obvious answer. I've played White Tiger over Mr. Fantastic for some games. Like I know my next play is going to be Marvel Boy type situations.
Sure.
Like I'll drop a White Tiger there and be like, all right, that extra scaling will matter more, and I can always double 2 on turn 4 if I need to, or I skip Mr. Fantastic this game. Yeah, there's like it's that good. If it was good enough that I might sometimes play it over Mr. Fantastic First Steps as a 2/2, then it probably needs a nerf.
Yeah, that's a good indicator.
All right. White Tiger is a 5/1 that now gives you a +9 Tiger, and I've seen a lot of people poo-poo this.
Oh, I love
Someone
it.
explain to me why.
Who poo-pooed this? Why would you poo-poo
This is great. This is the best change
all
in the
my
OTA.
comments, all that. Yep, agreed. This is so good. It's
This
like
is,
a +4 power to this card.
Yeah, it's great. And it's also like a helpful change for new play. I mean, the only reason to poo-poo it is because now it's so good for new players to the game that they'll have trouble playing anything else.
Yeah, it's a 5/10. They said, you know what? 5/10, go.
Yeah, and if you get Wong, like, sheesh, you're early on in the game, like, that's it. You get White Tiger, Doom, and Wong. You're happy.
Odin, Ravonna,
it's also
Grandmaster, Misery.
Negative.
Oh yeah, Misery too.
Yeah, like there's a million things to do with this card. It's awesome. You can play
Misery
it with
is actually amazing for this.
You can play it with freaking that you didn't watch today's video yet, Nick. Because that jet deck is in there. But then like you can do things with Fire Hair, right? Like because it's a 1, so destroy it and get an extra 9 power and lose 1. Like, are you kidding? This card is awesome.
It's also like very specifically the 9 power coming right below Shang-Chi, I think is like just really, really insane. If you can put 36 points at a location and there's no real way for that to be interacted with at all, that's really ridiculously powerful, I think.
Yeah, those can't even be Shadow Kinged. They are 9 base power.
Yep. And you can't Juggernaut them. You can't do Diddly Squat. Like,
got a U.S. agent to make them still 6 power. Still pretty
that requires people running U.S. agent again.
Yep, that's still That's still a 1 power nerf to where she started. Right, like it's just she's good. She's really, 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 really good.
It's so funny. Everybody complains that they never touch the old cards and they touch the old cards, and you're always going to find someone.
People weren't complaining that she's too strong. People were complaining like, "Oh, who cares? It's just 1 power on White Tiger." And I'm like, "What?"
That's 2 power as of recent, because wasn't she just buffed? Like she just had her Tiger buffed like a year ago.
But like even if it's not 2 power, right? Like 1 power matters, but you are allowed to make more than 1 Tiger.
Yeah. This is a card that if you're playing it, you're always getting multiple copies of, or you're just like getting a lot of value out of it in a Mr. Negative deck, but that's probably a Wong deck as well, right? So,
right. Or like the downside, like when you're not getting a lot of power out of this is when the game went horribly wrong and you were running anyway. And like the upside is I've got 2 to 3 extra power in each location. Ridiculous how good this is. This is the best change they've made in this OTA, I think, and I don't think it's close. And I really like the Havoc change, just for the record.
And it's to a series, like, it is to a series 0 card, and I love it. I think that's really good. And it's been 3 years. This is like the 3-year anniversary of White Tiger's last change was in 2022.
Wow.
Add an 8 power Tiger. So I think this is very reasonable. I'm always on board with them buffing the old cards. I think it's great for free-to-play players. It's great for new players. I think it just makes it for a stronger, solid card that you're going to want to play.
Let us move on to the second side of changes. We're still not on our main topic. I told you this OTA had a ridiculous amount to talk about. It's not my fault.
Did you console Sizer after this page that we're going to talk about? Is Sizer okay? Does Sizer need therapy?
Both Sizer and I got like 20 messages. All of my messages were like, "Is Sizer okay?" You are not original for that, Nick. Sorry. I literally 10 to 15 messages. Is Sizer okay? And then Sizer's like 20 people I've never talked to just DM'd me. And I was like, yeah, man. He's like, I haven't even gotten home to test it yet. Upon me going to sleep last night. He's like, it's very weird. And Sparky means that they had to do this because Sparky breaks the deck. And like that's it. That's what this ultimately comes down to. Let's tell our viewers, however, before we talk more about Sizer, what the changes are. I mean, I think we have to sort of take these four together. We can talk about them individually if we want, but we're talking about move, right? And we can talk about where else these might go. Vulture is now a 1/3 that gets +3. Human Torch is
1-2.
Sorry, ooh,
Human Torch
1/2 that
and
gets +3.
Vulture switched stats.
Thank you.
Which is
Human
super
Torch,
weird.
And Vulture becomes a +3 instead of a +6 because the one that gave +6 would be a little silly. Human Torch is now a 3/3. Topaz goes to a 3/5. Strange goes to a 2/4, and that's the move changes. No Lux?
Some big shakeups to move. So I also covered the OTA yesterday or last week, whenever you're watching this, on my channel, and I had Kingpin on as a guest. Kingpin, who got top 16 in the second Golden Gauntlet with move bounce, and in the third Golden Gauntlet got 17th. They had the best breakers of the 5/1 players, again with move bounce. So prominent move bounce one trick, just to get his initial thoughts. And the big conclusion that we kind of came to is this pushes people much more in the direction of Sizer's move deck that he got top 4 with in the third Golden Gauntlet than the move bounce variety, just because it's not really going to be as easy to replay the Human Torch or copy it with Frigga to get that power at multiple locations. And that's probably going to make people shy away from that variety of the deck. And yeah, is definitely a pretty big nerf overall.
I think that the Heimdall versions are going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think move bounce might be gone because, again, Torch was that deck in a very real way. But I think the Heimdall versions are going to be fine because they keep giving us these like one move explosion cards, right? Like our Fon Phase of the world, our Topazes,
Topaz, right?
Our Zorns, like just being able to like just drop a card and be like, this moves, and then I've got this lane where I can like do a Hellion type thing, a Topaz type thing, and then I can play Heimdall. I think it's going to be a like one turn explosion instead of this slower build up over time. I think it's going to be fine. I think like
definitely,
if it's not now, it will be when Sparky comes out.
It's also a big nerf to the traditional curves that a Phoenix Force Human Torch deck would take. You can still play a Kid Omega on turn 2, destroy the Human Torch on turn 3, and then bring that back on turn 4.
You see, the problem there is no one actually plays that deck.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
Like you know who doesn't play that deck almost ever?
Yeah. Is Jet.
And if Jet doesn't play that, then no one fucking plays it. Like I've heard that take a lot of times, and I'm like, that's cool and all, but like, I don't know. If you're gonna nerf something that doesn't, like, I'm not complaining that we're nerfing something that doesn't exist.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, same argument that we were just having, but it is still definitely a big nerf to move bounce, which is like, I mean, it hasn't been putting up the most numbers, but it still has its fans, Kingpin included, and is a reasonable deck, or has been a reasonable deck, despite some of the other recent changes to it. So it's definitely just going to take a hit there, though. I will say, I did today. I decided to hit Infinite with move bounce just to see if it was possible. So like it's still cooking. It's still playable, but you're not gonna get as big of numbers. I was seeing like Asteroid M in my games and stuff, and I was like, okay, that's pretty awesome. But other than that.
Yeah, it's fallen out of the top 10% in the domination that it had as far as the move decks. Like you would always see a move deck in the untapped top lists, and that is definitely gone now. Whether that's due to just this change or a variety of other reasons.
Sizer's been playing other things lately. I can check his untapped stats, but like no, Sizer's been playing a lot of just random decks, and because he plays so much, a lot of the stats were always his.
I love the fact that the Moonstone deck with Mercury is still around. That's quite something.
I think people can probably cut Electra from that, by the way. Electra's decent, but like you don't act, like I
Yeah,
still
great
see
point.
people running the Electra, but Electra was like a tournament specific tech. It doesn't matter nearly as much on ladder.
What
There's
do you
better
replace
things
it
to do.
with?
Mr. Fantastic. Oh wait, no. I don't know. I'd have to like actually look. I'd actually have to look at the deck and think it through. Generally speaking, I would guess an ongoing card, a nice cheap ongoing card. I also don't think you need Gorgon for ladder. When people are still playing Gorgon there, I'm always like, why? Like, I don't think Gorgon does very much for that deck right now. Like, again, Gorgon's really, really great in a tournament, right? Like, where you suddenly run into Arisham and you're like, Gorgon, Moonstone, auto win. But against not that, like, what's the point of Gorgon?
It's funny though, looking at the stats though, like, let's see, let's go by patch. Oh yeah, that's definitely not in the first, but that weird, the Scream move deck is pretty high up, but the numbers are just low right now. So be interesting to see what shakes out after all is said and done.
Yeah.
Second Dinner also said this was kind of a sort of a preemptive nerf, and Sparky is coming next season. That
for
Human
$20.
Torch just as a it's the premium card. Yeah. They should have kept these cards like this for another month then, but then yeah, it's just kind of preempting that sort of change and having a one cost doubler. There are other one cost doublers and we use them and we build around them, but one cost doublers are strong.
I think Torch is going to be fine. I think Torch of these cards is the best because Topaz and Zorn exist. Like, I think 2 moves and you still got a 3/12. Right? Like, he's now bad if you move him once, but he's still great if you move him twice. And
yeah,
if you
now
move
it works
him 3
Zorn,
times, you've won a lane. Right? Like, you move him 3 times, you've won a lane. And I don't think that's especially hard to do. I'm curious what this does to a deck that actually exists, Red Wing decks, which often ran Vulture as this like extra power card. I think that those have to like sort of go a little more all in on move because they're cutting Vulture for Human Torch at this point, obviously. But Human Torch needs more moves, needs more movers. So I think the Hellion varieties of those end up a little better than the previous versions. But again, that's all stuff I'm fine with. Bigger picture questions: can we get rid of the move ability on Mercury now?
Yeah, I don't know why they still seem so hung up on that. I think that would have been an easy change for this OTA, but I don't know.
I assumed that was part of like and I don't know much about the lore, to be honest, but I assumed that was trying to evoke something from what Mercury can do.
It's Mercury, it's movement, right? But like,
and
it's sticky because it's Mercury. Like, that's the whole concept here. I get it, but like, cool lore versus game balance. You got to pick one. Pick game balance, right?
A question: do you have it to where you can move her once up until a specific turn? I think someone had suggested that. That's probably why that's stuck in my head.
Ridiculously complicated. No, just like either move her or don't. Like, just pick one.
Yeah, and the fact that you can move her also just makes her so free in terms of and in talking with Kingpin. That's the big reason that Topaz seems like a fine card, but it's really Mercury that's holding that back because you just move Mercury into the Topaz location, and now you've just ghosted the Topaz. It just no longer has an ability at that point. And that's when you have to play your move cards, be they Madam Web or Topaz or Zorn, like face up and then predict it, and then your opponents don't have to predict you. They get to like move their card around as they see fit. It makes it really tough for that to play around.
How do we feel overall about nerfing an entire archetype for a newly releasing card? Especially a newly releasing Season Pass premium card.
I mean, kind of like I was like kind of joking, but is this better than them giving us a Mr. Fantastic First Steps for a month and then nerfing it a week or two later and saying like, okay, anybody that paid $20 gets to play with it for a month and then we're going to take it away and nobody else does. This is like an attempt to kind of balance it and not give us something broken, right?
I think I agree. I'm curious how it would feel if this was discard that had to get severely nerfed for a card that's coming out next month and not move.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good
Because
point.
I think I'm okay with it, but I think that might also be because I think move in the hands of good players is kind of obnoxious to play against.
Mm-hmm.
And despite my rank not being high anymore, I still seem to exclusively play people ranked in the top 100. MMR is fun. So like I just like so when I play against a move player, it's like fuck, here we go, and like it's just all right. I'm probably gonna end up running because they know what they're doing, and that's not like unless I'm running Mercury or something broken, right? Like I could be running a negative, but like that those decks went over the top of negative when good players played them meant that like I don't know, I'm ultimately okay. I think with move just being a more reasonable and less outlier style of power deck.
Yeah,
But
I
But
agree.
but like
from just like the
this,
theory of it all.
the theory of it frustrates me.
Yeah, because there's like that option, or there's power creep, the new
Uh-huh.
cards, and like this kind of feels like a frustrating version of power creep. It's like not
Mhm.
only are you releasing a new card, but the old cards just straight up don't work. So
Yep.
you can't even just like ignore the
Well,
power creep in a way that you would have been able to do otherwise.
and if you want the new card, give us $21.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's
Right, like
the harder part. Like,
they need a solution for the season pass premium. I don't think I don't hate an extra card there, but it has to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I think that most elegant solution I've heard, and I'm 90% sure this isn't mine, but I don't know where else I got it from. So credit to someone in the ether is you make the card in the variant the card you spend money for a variant, and because when you
Mm-hmm.
buy the variant you get the base card, you could just buy the card that way, or you could just buy the base card with tokens. And I'd still probably spend the $20 because I'd want the variant. You just let that be the only variant for a little while, and they're like, well, I have to have a variant, so I'm going to do it this way, and perfectly fine. They would still make nearly as much money, and everyone would fucking feel fine about it.
yeah, that sounds incredibly reasonable.
At that point, they could even do a Series 5 card.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts on move changes? Oh, like Doctor Strange still sucks, right? Like he still doesn't go in move decks.
Well, he was in the move bounce decks, except he wasn't because
Sure.
Kingpin cut him for Mr. Fantastic for First Steps. But yeah, those decks now being worse, he
They
is
would probably
he kind of seems like an old class of cards. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he's not a one cost card, and he's not a card that lets you move multiple things. So
yeah. Well, he can let you move multiple things, but it's unlikely.
oh, that's true. That's true.
I think what his real problem is that Ghost Spider is just so much better, right? Like Ghost Spider costing half as much really screws him up.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they ultimately end up doing the same thing. Yes,
You
he doesn't
never
have to be the
cut.
last card, but yeah.
You never cut Ghost Spider for Doctor Strange. You might just also play Doctor Strange.
Exactly. And now there's just not enough space. Although Cerebro 4, Doctor Strange.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. It does nothing.
Yeah, I don't think that does anything. I was briefly considering like, okay, you could use a 3-cost Doctor Strange to move a multiple man, and then that's a cute way to get multiple 3 power cards in your Cerebro 3 deck.
I guess. So
yeah.
that fringe case, as discussed earlier, is real.
Yeah, but I wasn't doing that.
No one was doing that. The discard version was just better, was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were trying to do like weird, silly Cerebro things, you would just do them with
Blade
and
Swarm.
Yeah, do them with Blade and Swarm, and then you also had access to Bullseye, right? Like it was just, oh look, I have things.
Mm-hmm.
The last change is Terrax the Tamer is now a 3/4. And what did Rockslide do to second dinner?
Whatever he did, man, he is never going to stop paying for that. Holy Moses.
Yeah, really. They're just like, we don't like this card. All right, what do we think about the Terrax change? No Lux?
I'm normally on the other side of a Terrax. I'm an RSM gamer, and which I mean, I don't care about Terrax specifically. I care about the Darkhawk part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it I mean, +1 power. It's +1 power, and I think that's the part that matters more about it is like the +1 power at the end of the game, because a deck that is trying to play Terrax, you're trying to have wins in as many locations as you can when you flip it, which often should mean that you have priority when you flip it, which means that the extra power won't really matter because you're probably winning that location regardless. But it can help you beat like an Iron Patriot that they played on turn 2, not to win the Iron Patriot battle, but just to win the Terrax battle and give him an extra rock.
Yeah, I've seen this a few times since they made the change, and I don't think I've lost against it. I think it's an easy card to, stuff a couple rocks in their decks, but I don't know if it's worth the squeeze, because at what point is he the better option than a rock slide? I know he's more expensive, but I don't know if I would want to pick him over rock slide in a deck.
There is a benefit. It's kind of strange, and I'm not really sure. I don't really think it would actually work, to be honest. I'm just thinking you can play this plus Mystique on the final turn, but if you're playing Terrax on the final turn, I think it's the least likely to have an impact, because if you're winning locations and shuffling in rocks, then it doesn't matter that you're shuffling rocks because you're already winning locations.
Bounce Darkhawk, the werewolf deck.
Yeah.
That's like his best home, I think.
Yeah, you're like grandmastering this.
Yeah, assuming Supergiant recedes anyway. I don't think that deck is very good if Supergiant exists. Supergiant secretly, utterly wrecks the face-off bounce. Bounce cannot exist in Supergiant meta. But
nobody knows how to use Supergiant properly, so I think we're safe there.
You're safe. I ain't safe.
You just got to lose some more Glazer. Spend another couple
working
months
on it. I haven't been remotely good since I got to Vietnam. I'm tired all the time, and my MMR is like, no, you want to play top players. No, I don't. Stop. But yeah, Terrax is gonna be good. Like the Supergiant deck is good. Someone sent me a Wiccan list with him, which is good. I think it's a Ika, but I could be wrong. Which is good. He's good. Darkhawk is good. So what had ultimately happened, I think the reason they decided to do this, outside of the stats on the card not being good, where we saw those like 4 or 5 different decks that were running the same package, where they were running like this little Merlin Juggernaut Werewolf by Night package, and then they were just running a separate points package around it. And there was a Ronin points package, and there was a Devil Dino points package, and there was a Darkhawk points package, and there was a Red Skull points package. And the worst of those by far was the Darkhawk one. The Darkhawk one got the most publicity because I think like Cam and Roram wouldn't shut up about it, but I think it was the worst one by the stats, because I have all the top player stats, right? So like it was the one that was performing the worst despite it getting the most publicity. Although there's probably some correlation there as well.
I think that one was like first too, is how I felt. Like Roram like posted that deck quite quickly, and I think it still wasn't like fully refined.
Yeah.
First to market.
I don't disagree. That makes perfect sense to me. Either which way, I don't think that. I think that like that deck was just getting outpointed was the real problem, because the Darkhawk stuff wasn't disruptive enough to mean that like running Maximus wasn't better, right? Running Kahori wasn't better. Running these cards that put up real points, because the Darkhawk package is fundamentally all your points are in Darkhawk.
Yeah.
Like if they're not drawing the rocks, you're just not doing anything.
Leaves you kind of like a variable power. It gives your opponent a variable power output that you can't really predict, which is kind of like the opposite of where most Marvel Snap decks try to be, right? Like a Pixie deck or a Mr. Fantastic First Steps.
So where we end up being is that deck just didn't have enough power. It didn't have enough, a lot of things really, right? And like Darkhawk probably shouldn't be the worst of those 5. He doesn't have to be the best of those. But he shouldn't be the worst of those. And because he was, I think they buffed Terrax to be like, well, if we give them more like power through the rocks, maybe that does the job.
I think Darkhawk's success is purely metagame defined. When Thanos and RSM are the deck, then it's a deck that gets additional stock and otherwise should just be ignored.
Which is a shame. It's so crazy to see how far Darkhawk has fallen. I still remember winning a season with Darkhawk and negative deck. That was one of my favorite seasons to win because it was my first negative win, and it felt really good. And it feels like it has come. It's been so long since Darkhawk's had any real meta relevance. I see people, like I said, I see people trying to make him work now. I just don't see it succeeding all that well, which is a shame. Like, I think Darkhawk deserves to be a solid card. Doesn't need to be overpowered, but I think it deserves to be a solid card.
He was the best card and the best deck in the game off and on for 2 years.
But he hasn't been
bad for a while.
2 years. I think that's the problem. Is he's been dead for how long? Okay, when was he big?
6 months. Like 6 months. It's been like 6 months, sir. It has not been that long.
Fair. But he's Darkhawk.
He was cool. So good for so long. He was like when he came out, basically like he was in the best deck in the game, and then he was pretty consistently in the best deck in the game for like a year, and then he was in the best performing deck that no one played for like another year. Like it'll be fine. He'll be fine.
I could be wrong on this, but I feel like Darkhawk or maybe Zabu came out at the same time that Conquest Mode came out. I'm fairly sure that Darkhawk Zabu is the first deck that I used to win in Infinity Conquest.
That sounds about right.
So it feels like maybe, that also provides some additional nostalgia for a lot of people, like having that more competitive mode and then having this be the best deck at the same time, Yeah.
Look, last time Darkhawk was relevant was the Thanos meta of like January, February, right? When Thanos Harisham were really great, Darkhawk was relevant yet again. Like the card's not gonna go away. It's just let it be fine. Let it be in the background.
In High Voltage Overdrive, I believe it was banned in High Voltage Overdrive.
Right, it's good enough to be banned. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I like Darkhawk. Darkhawk is one of my favorite cards in the history of the game. But like, okay, we're good. Other things can be good now too.
I do think T-Rex is cool though. Like it's so much more interesting than Rockslide and Korg. I will give it that. I did kind of get excited when you talked about some sort of bounce rock deck and then potentially re-triggering it in different ways. Those could be cool ideas.
I mean, even if you don't re-trigger it, right? You just hit it once and like you bounce your 1-drops.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right, you bounce your 1-drops and you bounce Cassandra Nova.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that seems like a perfectly reasonable place for this deck to live. If Thanos gets big, and both Binks and Cougar are currently sharing Thanos decks, if Thanos gets big again, I'll just farm it. Because that shit will farm Thanos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that rocks should be counted as stones for the purpose of Mind Stone. I think Mind Stone should be able to draw rocks.
That would be very funny.
I don't know like who that benefits, but I've just always felt that.
I wish Mole Man's rocks weren't destroyed by that stupid location where you skip a turn.
Oh
shit. I never even thought about that. That's silly. Yeah. That's again, it's one of those weird edge cases, but
yeah. It's a feel bad, let me just say. I like Mole Man a lot. Mole Man is gone. It's good, not great, and that's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
All right. Any winners and losers in this OTA that were not actually in this OTA? I've got one while you think. Juggernaut still exists, and I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like Juggernaut and that type of deck that Juggernaut goes in, which is generally what I'm really talking about is that Fenris Wolf deck, right? That deck being among the best things to do. Yes, it lost Mr. Fantastic First Steps. No, it doesn't really care. It was running like 4 2-drops anyway. That deck is a deck that loves Merlin. Is just the biggest winner. I think it is very likely to be, once we get the refined version for what people are currently playing, the best deck in the game. It is absolutely incredible and super strong.
Yeah, too new for me to think of anything outside of that, to be totally honest. I would have agreed that Juggernaut, being the best card that did not get any nerfs.
The other thing that's hurt is your tech cards are going to be in flux for a little while. It's going to be a little while before the meta settles and we know exactly what tech cards to run. That's the other power of things like Gladiator. because like you can just run Gladiator and Negasonic, and then like Fenris Wolf still gives you value. So that ends up being fine. The last big beneficiary, I think, is actually Stardust. Because if people are playing a lot of Fenris Wolf and Redshift Hella wasn't touched, Redshift is still going to be a thing. I think that Stardust starts to become a really, really viable tech choice all of a sudden.
Stardust is just another one of those cards, though, that if you're, I mean, you get the benefit of the 4/7 body, but it's a fizzle. Like they do Ghost Change. If they're not running any end of turn stuff, if they're not bringing anything back onto the board, it's kind of
difference between a 3/4 and a 4/7 is real. Is fundamentally my answer there.
Yeah.
Like if they're not running any 10 power cards, Shanga's dead, but Shanga's a 4/3. Right? Like part of the value of Enchantress is if they're not running ongoing cards, she's a 4/6. That's a body you're like not thrilled to play, but not sad to say. 4/7's a good body. Like I think the only tech card that basically always has a target is Red Guardian. Even then, like which is part of why it was absurd that Red Guardian was a 3/5 for a year.
Yeah, holy Moses, yeah.
So like this tech card always has viability. Let's give it a premium stat line. All right, we good with this OTA?
Yeah, Juggernaut for next OTA. They've got to change it, right? Like they've got to do something.
Someone sent this to Cam, and it's the best answer I've ever heard. You make Juggernaut a 5/9 with his ability, and you make Arrow a 3/3 with her ability. And it's just like, yeah, that you do that. And you can even make Arrow a 3/4 or 3/5 with her ability, right? Like, problem solved. Juggernaut canonically should be a 5/9, right? Like, the character should be a 5/9. It's still going to win lanes, but like now the 9 power is pseudo wasted, right? Like,
you need to then,
like,
you're looking to play demons. Like. I was thinking with Ghost Spider.
Yeah, I mean.
Sure, but like that now that's cool, right? Like that's different. Yes. And even if that needs a nerf later, fine. At least we're doing a completely different deck rather than the like extremely boring and predictable play 2/3.
Yeah, Juggernaut is just you can be tied at a location or losing it by 2, and he just guarantees you to win that location
unless
more
the
or less.
Board fills or figures out how to play around it.
Yeah, Brood or something weird like that too. But
look,
there's just a lot of times where it's very, very good.
I got one of the 8s on my way to Infinite because my opponent tried to snap a Hydra Bob and clearly had a Juggernaut.
Whoops.
And I was like, well, I've got a Squirrel Girl, so I don't care. Right? Like, it was like, yeah, you do that, and then I win. So, good note. Juggernaut's like a reverse of the previous Professor X, where you used to have to win a previous lane, and now like Juggernaut instead just guarantees you a lane. Yeah, he's insane. He's again top 3 card in Marvel Snap to me right now. I don't know what order those 3 sort of fall in. That's going to take a little bit more time in doing, but for the time being, he's a top 3 card in Marvel Snap, at least in my opinion.
I think Juggernaut's also still not the easiest card to use, knowing when to use him. Yeah, obviously there's the easy end cases where I'm winning this lane if I
usually
play
turn
Juggernaut
6.
Yeah. But it's a matter of being able to choose when you want to do that, and are you in a position where that's your best benefit is to play him on that turn. There are some opportunities to do that otherwise, but yeah, I do agree.
Sure.
There's a lot of locations that trigger on turn 3, for instance, that just become relevant, whether you want to give them less Hulks or you want to knock them into Murder World or out of Asgard, potentially. But well, I think there's a lot of versatility from it. I mean, the classic, it started to see a lot of play again when Iron Patriot came out as just follow up your Iron Patriot with a Juggernaut. So, just a lot of versatility.
Yeah. I'm all about it. All right, let's talk some tournament stuff. So we're going to actually... Ooh, the hell? Let's talk Frankie Ray Nova, because that's the card that came out this week. Frankie Ray is boring. Make her a 2/4 or go away. She's good, but she's boring. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that she doesn't work with Arnim Zola. It seems like a missed opportunity, and it's just like how it's coded. It doesn't even seem like it's what it's trying to do necessarily. But It's a 2/6 that has like a fairly low ask of you. Just play a 6 cost card, but not every deck wants to do that, and decks that want a 2/6 don't necessarily want to do that either, because decks that play 6 cost cards are oftentimes just like doing totally different things in Marvel Snap. So I wish that she worked with Arnim Zola, and that's or he, yeah, no, she, Frankie, a little gender neutral there, but yeah, I'd like if there were more cool things you could do with her.
Yeah, she's. I don't know if she is a better card than the alternatives in the decks that she goes in. You're right. There's not necessarily a ton of 6 costs that you're wanting to play. Sure, there's Sasquatch and Mockingbird, and there's decks that are built around that. But I think you're right. She's boring, and I don't know if it's worth picking her over another 2-drop. I don't know if I'd want to choose her over Merlin. Now, I know a lot of the decks that she's in do have Merlin in them as well, but I don't know. I mean, a 2/6 base is not bad. You toss Agony in there, that can be, that's where things kind of can get a bit interesting. And the fact that she doesn't come out until you play that 6 cost, like her power doesn't necessarily buff until that, can help you.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of time to set up her buff.
Yeah, but it's also hard to buff her outside of your hand, unless you're, Corey and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it needs to be a 4. Like it's too often a dead card. Like, a 2/6 isn't a dead card, but like for what you're trying to do with it, it's a dead card. That's it. Like, it's a fucking fine little card, but like if they want it to be good, you make it a 2/4. This is one of those cases where like if we had 3.5, we'd be happiest.
Yeah.
But if you want her to be good, she's a 2/4, and if you want her to go in exactly one deck, she's a 2/3.
Yeah, and I guess that's the Sasquatch shout is probably the most reasonable card to play her with, just because that's a card that plays, or that's a deck that plays like Gwenpool, but it's tricky to find a deck that both wants to play 6-cost cards and wants to play weird things like Forge or Agony that are going to pump up your cards.
Yeah. And also, we need to have a discussion about the fact that this is once per game, even though it does not explicitly say that on here. I don't know what their text department was doing and why they didn't just add that on.
I read this and I think it says once per game, but I think a lot of the confusion came from the season preview video, the developer update video, which did not specifically say that you could trigger Frankie Ray Nova multiple times, but was clearly from a build of the game where you could do that, and they edited those clips around it, which made, I think, people very, very confused on how this was going to work. But I do agree it could certainly be worded better, though.
Yeah. Let's keep. I don't want to talk about her anymore.
Yep.
Sorry. She's so boring.
I think
she's
said all we need to know.
She's just so fucking boring. Like, it's just, yeah, we know what she does. All right. So first, Nolux, tell us about your recent tournaments and recent tournament success.
Yeah, so I have had success in 2 tournaments. I reached out to Glazer last week and was like, hey, I just participated and won this thing called the Snap Wars League, and I'd love to come on and talk about that a little bit. And I was thinking like, oh, that's a little bit awkward timing because the Golden Gauntlet's coming out, and maybe you'll want to talk about the Golden Gauntlet next week. So I decided to top 16 the Golden Gauntlet as well. So some pretty good tournament performances from me recently. The Snap Wars League, it's like a what do you call it? Yeah, round robin, and there's like divisions. So I started in the bottom division, and then after a few series of promotions, this season I won the top division. And I've got the coverage of all of those games from all 3 of those seasons actually on my YouTube channel. And then at the end of the season, the winners of the different divisions play in a bracketed final playoff. And I just posted the grand finals of that today on my channel, where I used Cerebro 3 as my main deck choice towards the end of that. And there were a few reasons that I went for Cerebro 3. I think the biggest one probably just being Juggernaut and other really good tech all has 3 power, and Cerebro is a deck that I could play without any of the new cards featured in it. So it's a deck that's very accessible, and I still think very powerful. And then in the Golden Gauntlet 3, I decided to play Danish Hela with Supergiant included in that. And I know that's been covered on the channel previously. But part of the, so like everyone heard, I'm going to play Hela, and Stardust being a brand new card, like, was that scary? I think it actually like kind of is helpful in an interesting way, because there weren't many people that played Hela. There were 4 people that played Hela in the entire tournament. And I think part of that was because of Stardust, which makes Stardust worse and makes less people play it, which then makes Hela better. It's an interesting sort of cycle with that sort of stuff. But I just thought Hela was a nice way to go over the top of the Invisible Woman decks. And Supergiant I felt was like just enough disruption that could also be included synergistically in a deck that goes over the top in that way.
I love Tournament Marvel Snap. You're participating in the Snap Judgments League, which is very similar to what you talked about.
That's coming up. Last chance to sign up for the get your Patreons and get into that.
I believe you top 8'd that last time too. What makes you so successful in tournaments?
I guess I just play a lot of Marvel Snap, and I will honestly say, like, one thing that makes me a better gamer is just like playing more games, but also like producing content for the games that I play does actually make me better at playing the games, because I will often do live commentary, and I do for YouTube rather than for Twitch, which allows me to be, I think, a little bit more of a sprinter than a marathon runner. If you're playing for Twitch, that can be a long stream. You're not going to be thinking about every single play that you make every single game. But when I'm recording for YouTube, I'm like locked in and focused on the topic at hand. So it really just makes me like reflect on my plays a lot more. And also just, a lifelong time of gaming. But as far as like specific tips for Marvel Snap, I would just always think about like when you should be snapping and when you should be retreating. And that matters a lot more than the deck choices oftentimes. I mean, the deck choices do certainly matter, but yeah.
Do you have any tips for people who would like to improve?
So a few seasons ago, and I'd love to do it again, I did like a sort of coaching video where I helped someone to get infinite, and you can really play whatever. Yeah. And the big thing was like every game, every turn, you want to think about what is your opponent playing? What do you think are the cards that you haven't seen that could still be in their deck? Should you be snapping this turn? And if your opponent snaps, should you be retreating? You also have to think about, okay, what are the play lines and what am I supposed to play this turn, and all of those technical things, and understanding your deck and selecting the right deck. But once you've done that, like Pulse can take care of that part for you. You can watch his videos and you can grab a deck. So I think that part is like the easier part in a weird way. And just once you have a deck, it doesn't really matter which one you have. Focus on the fundamentals of when to snap and when to retreat. I cannot hear you.
Oh no. He's got it. I can see it. This is what you miss by not being on a part of the live stream.
It's a marathon.
We're not editing that out. No, my mic just my mic and my computer just sometimes, as I'm doing things, mute themselves for no readily apparent reason. No one knows why. Like, it's just I have to go into the like audio settings and the mic is just muted. And like I'm just like, but no one's moved, no one's touched anything. It's just muted itself. It's fine.
It might be like a power surge thing. When I lose power, the only thing that, like, you know how you have to like reset the clock on your microwave or whatever, my microphone will disconnect from my PC. It's very strange.
And maybe
I
that just
love
mutes the whole
technology.
thing. It's
It's
possible.
yeah.
It's just it's utterly not so. Yeah, I finally killed the zoom in. At least it stopped zooming in on me. I don't know what I did to kill the zoom in, so perhaps it comes back in a random time because I didn't like change anything. I just eventually it stopped happening, and I've just been like, awesome. All right, whatever. I don't remember what I was even gonna say. I had yeah, I do. What are the differences between snapping in a tournament and snapping on ladder? Staying in a tournament and staying in ladder.
So there are a few differences. The biggest one I will say is oftentimes in these tournaments, not always, the Snap Wars League was closed deck list, so you could change your deck every round and your opponent didn't know what you were going to play. But there is a big difference as far as the official tournaments, which thus far have all been open deck list. You know all of the cards that your opponent might potentially have. That is a big thing. I am this could be an aspect to it all too. I am fairly bullish when it comes to snapping. I think I'm one of the more aggressive snappers, though there's certainly people that are a little aggressive. And Denish, who basically designed the deck that I was playing, is also like a very aggressive snapper. So that deck certainly kind of like, I fit into that deck well. And I think Cerebro is also a deck where you need to aggressively snap, because if you're snapping on turn 4 or turn 5, and especially turn 6, everyone knows not to do that. But at that point, like, okay, your opponent knows that you have Cerebro, and that's why you're snapping. Oftentimes, I'm snapping on turn 2 with Cerebro almost every game that I play it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I have the Cerebro. It just means that the 2 locations that I've seen do not add or remove power to my cards. And I think I'll be able to use Cerebro's ability. So I think that snapping aggressively is pretty good. I uploaded a short the other day where I snapped with Hela on turn 6, despite not having Hela in my hand, and was 100% losing the game. I had no way to win unless I snapped. Snapping was the only way to win that game, because maybe it made my opponent retreat. So know that about me. If you're playing against me on the ladder, I might be bluffing snapping, which I think is like a very, very underutilized aspect of the game. But that's not something that I'm like pulling out all the time, to be honest. I'm mostly just recognizing whenever the game looks like it is 50.5% in my favor, I'm snapping.
So a thing about bluff snapping is it should work really well if Marvel Snap players had any discipline. But fairly often, like, I'll play against someone and they'll snap me, and I'll be like, I think I can beat their best hand. And then they play like 2 absolutely crap cards. And oh my god, Brady is being obnoxious in chat. Sorry. And then blah, 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 blah. Like they'll just play like 2 mediocre cards, and I'm like, why they clearly bluff snap thinking I would run, right? And I was just like, I could have beaten your good hand, let alone this like random mishmash of cards you played. But like bluff snaps are really effective in like it's like poker, right? Where if you're playing with a bunch of poker pros, it's much easier to know when to stay in retreat or stay in fold. Whether it is when you're playing with a bunch of amateurs who might just choose to stay in with like nothing really, and then get rewarded with pure luck, right? Like that kind of thing matters in very small sample sizes in real ways. And tournaments are ultimately very small sample sizes.
Yeah, for sure. I think there is also something to be said, and this isn't possible for everyone, but having the best way to like know how to beat, we'll say, a Mr. Negative deck, for instance, is to play a Mr. Negative deck. And the best way to know how to beat a move deck is to play a move deck. And to that aspect, I'm very much like not really a one trick at all. For a little bit, I was an RSM one trick just because that meant nothing. Like, you play RSM, so you're playing everything, right? But getting a variety of different experiences also informs how you can play around those things and beat those things, and just makes you more well-rounded overall. there was a particular example in the Golden Gauntlet where I did not retreat in a 7-cube game to a Mr. Fantastic Jane Foster draw out of a Mr. Negative deck because those were the only cards that they had played that game. They had played Mr. Fantastic into Jane Foster. So that means that they only drew one card off Jane Foster, plus they drew one card on turn 5. So they only had 2 flipped cards, and I had an Emperor Hulkling that I think had like gore on him or something else crazy. So I had a respectable hand that I felt could compete.
Yeah, one of the big tips for negative that I never hear anyone talk about is check their hand size before turn 5 and after turn 5. It matters a lot.
I'm also snapping on turn 3 every game if they did not play a 2-cost card against Mr. Negative.
Interesting.
If they didn't have Psylocke or Ravonna, I'm snapping.
That makes sense for a tournament.
It does. Yeah.
Especially in the conquest mode.
Ladder.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously on ladder or in conquest. You won't know that they're negative.
Yeah, great point.
Although, like, there are cases where that will bite you, right? Like they play nothing. They play nothing into negative, but then they play magic in a 2-drop in Jane.
Yes,
and now you're like, well, shit, right? Like there's situations where this can become frustrating, or they even in those smaller sample sizes where the only 2 cards they drew were Null and Arnim Zola, and you're just like, shit. You know what I mean? Like,
and I was also
remember
playing,
that it's not. Yeah,
I was also playing Legion to turn off Limbo and Supergiant to mess with other weird like Jane draws and things. So it wasn't, from this specific example, it made a lot more sense. But that's a great point. That that's a very tournament specific snap. Is like you get to see their deck and you know what their good draws are. And against some opponents, that could be okay. They didn't play their Mr. Fantastic first steps on turn 2. Old example, but
old as a 24-hour-old example.
28 maybe. But if there is a draw that your opponent needs to have, then punishing them when they don't. Same thing, like if you're playing against a Cerebro deck, then you could recognize based off the locations what you need to snap. I believe round 1, one of the locations was Throne Room. That was the first location, round 1 of the Golden Gauntlet 3 for me. So that's just a snappable location because I know that I can win that location for free, which means I only need to win one other location, which is pretty easy to do when you know that that's the goal from turn 1.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell us your general thoughts on fan tournaments. A question that people are going to ask is, how do you find them? How do you join them? What do you think about them?
How do you find them, I think, is the trickiest part. And I would, at one point, I wanted to be like a compilation of all fan tournaments. I will say one way is just like stay involved with creator. I'm going to plug myself. Like I find some fan tournaments, so follow me and I'll let you know what the resources are, what the discords are that you want to join. If you want to join the Snap Wars or if you want to join the Snap Judgments League, I'll let you know where those can be found at. It can be a little bit tricky. And once you have found one, it is easier to find the others because then you can communicate with the players that are in those and find more. So, I would say join my Discord, join my YouTube channel, join Glazer's Discord and watch his videos as well. That would be the easiest way. What were
honestly,
what's that?
Honestly, you do those things and you've got the best possible handle, I really think.
Yeah. What were the second and third parts of that question? Do you remember?
Once you find tournaments, like what do you think of fan tournaments? How do you feel they run? Are they run especially like just, your overall fan tournament thoughts?
I like another person that does a lot of, there's a lot of different resources for fan tournaments. I think that they're fun. I was going to give a shout out to Roram as well, winner of the second Golden Gauntlet. They do a lot of fun stuff on their Discord. I also really like it because there is not one correct way to play Marvel Snap. Even like in the category of competitive, there is not one right way to play Marvel Snap, but you don't have to play Marvel Snap competitively. And there's a lot of other things that I do that aren't competitive, but are still like interesting in similar ways. The official Marvel Snap Discord runs what are called community battles once or twice a month, where there are different deck building restrictions that you have to follow, and everyone builds like weird decks for those. I think that those are cool things to get involved with. And you can win random season pass drawings from participating in those, but you also win just by being able to play in them, because it's value to have fun playing an additional way in Marvel Snap. So I'm for really anything that anyone is throwing at the wall, whether that be like drafting. I've seen that. I personally, for the second Golden Gauntlet, creators were able to like invite people. So I did a fan tournament for my invite where each round there was like a snake draft where you got to ban cards, and I was curious how that would impact the game, and kind of like add a little bit of just intrigue to just a little way to spice it up. I'm all for anything that's going to give you interesting ways to play Marvel Snap, and competitive is just like one of those ways. But there's a lot of people doing cool stuff with that. That's fun.
Yeah. My overall thought on tournaments is like the purpose of fan tournaments for a long time was to fill the competitive hole that Marvel Snap seemed unwilling to do. And the purpose of fan tournaments now, to me, is to offer variety. Like the Snap Judgments League, what that's for, as my head, the reason we weren't sure we were going to continue it, the reason it is continuing is because I think it's important for people who can't really afford to play more than one game a week to have a way that they can get their creative outlet. There's lots of different tweaks to tournaments as far as archetypes, ban cards, different things like that. We recently had the One Trick Invitational, which was an interesting for people and like that kind of thing. I think that that's sort of where fan tourneys live now. If the official tournaments are just going to be here's the game, go play a tournament, then the goal of fan tourneys is to provide something that's missing from that model for the community.
And I will even throw this on top. I kind of forgot about this until you said it. But in your tournaments, PulseGlazer, I have made my own rules in the past. After seeing who I was paired up against, I like one was, and I forget who this was against, forgive me, but Red Wing had just come out. So we both played the Red Wing deck that you'd featured in your video that day.
Yeah,
and like, and there's fun stuff that you can do. Like you can both say, okay, we're going to just play RSM, or we're going to use a website that allows you to draft things, or we're going to do bans and see what we can come up with after that. And there's a lot of creativity that you can have. And it's also just fun to flex that sort of muscle if Marvel Snap is the game that you're playing. One of you mentioned earlier that it's the game, or the other game maybe was like a game you play when you poop or not when you poop or something. For me, oftentimes Marvel Snap is a game that I'll play when I pee. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to, I might be standing there for an extra minute or two, but the games are so quick, and really locking in with the competitive angle just gives it a different feel to it than something where you're just maybe like moving around buttons a little bit for fun, I think.
Yeah, I dig that. Second dinner tournaments. And Nick, you're going to lead us off on this because you've, I believe, modded every Golden Gauntlet so far, right?
Every single one. Yep.
Oh, cool.
It's
I can't wake up a half hour early for one of my videos, but we'll do 72-hour Golden Gauntlet tournaments. It's great.
Damn straight.
So tell us your thoughts on second dinners tourneys.
I've really enjoyed being a part of them. I think they are, for the most part, run incredibly well. I see the work behind the team. That's one of the things that I've really had a different perspective on them. I think it is really well laid out. I obviously know there's a lot of technical stuff behind them. I think the hardest part behind it is because it is handled directly by Second Dinner. There's more restrictions in place, and I don't think that's always a bad thing. But I think depending on what you're getting into the tournaments for, it can make your decision, to go one over the other. The one thing I loved about the Snap Judgments tournament is that you've got the flexibility to kind of play as needed versus having to cut out that huge chunk of time to be able to play, because that's the issue with the one and done tournaments, is that you are committing to potentially a 12-hour day if you do really, really well. And I know that's hard for a lot of people, and I think that is the thing that will always make the official tournament separate, is that you are limited by the structure behind it. But at the same time, that structure provides that competitive level of watching at the beginning and seeing someone go all the way through, or seeing someone that you thought was 100% going to go all the way through and then falter throughout that process. You don't see that as much in the asynchronous kind of tournaments like the Snap Judgments League, because not everyone is watching at the same time. So I think there's benefits and downsides to both of them. I think the level that the Snap Judgments tournaments run, they provide a level of stability in knowing what you're going to expect. Sure, sometimes we may not be able to line up the games perfectly, but those games are, when they are going to be available, they are very readily available. And when they're casted incredibly well. I think the benefit of having the good casting teams and the organization behind the scenes has made it really, really great. I think filling the downsides, like the downtime, is the next big thing that the official tournaments need to do. But outside of that, I'm very happy with it. I think people have been happy with it. It's a very fair way of laying it out, and the people have all been great. Like, I will say, other than the occasional complainer here and there, the community has been phenomenal. Everybody is just excited to watch some high quality Marvel Snap gaming, and it's where you get some of the best players.
Thank you.
Exclamation point giveaway.
Yeah, I also wanted to give some flowers to Pulse Casting. I
was like, why? I didn't do shit. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I thought you did a great job last weekend.
Thank
you. I was just excited to see your face when it was announced, and I think it's cool. Awesome. Given you that opportunity. Official tournaments are something that I have been asking for a while. For myself personally, I was free to play in Marvel Snap for a while, and for the most part that was kind of because there was no, like, I think you can hit infinite with absolutely anything, and there was no kind of desire, nothing that really needed you to go that one step further. When I joined the Snap Judgments League, that's when I started buying season passes, because now I was like, okay, well, here's something that kind of, and I had won tournaments before that as a free to play player, but this was something where I was like, okay, on a week by week basis, I want to be able to put up the highest level of competition that I can. And I think that for me is worth the spending $10 on, not from like a wanting to be able to compete, but just like finding that aspect of the game intriguing. And in that same way, I think that having some competitive angles in Marvel Snap, I do think they could still take it a little bit further, but I'm willing to see it out, baby steps, and I like the direction that it's going. But I'd like to see something as far as like the prizes are concerned, that something that's a little bit more worth playing for. But right now, I'm playing for glory, and I think is something that is going to make me buy season passes and potential season premium season passes in the future if I want to compete at the top levels.
I think that they're an amazing driver of content. Marvel Snap sincerely lacks end game content. Like, I hit infinite and I don't have the time to grind right now. So I have no inclination to open up Marvel Snap, except to be like, ooh, maybe I can upgrade something, right? Like, and if I'm not opening the game, I'm not buying anything. I'm not playing a ton. And like, that's me, and I'm a reasonably high level creator in this game, right? Like, I can't imagine what that's like for average play on the toilet Joe. May have chosen that name on purpose. Average play on the toilet Joe, and how little motivation they would have. Part of the reason for the so many decks on the channel is I want to give people things to do in the game, right? Because like, outside of experimenting with new stuff, there's just not end game content, and tournaments give us that. They need to be a little bit more prominent, a little bit more regular, and
Yeah.
like they're not yet, but we got to start somewhere. But if they happen once a month, then a lot of what happens is we spend a lot of that month testing things, trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, trying to like hide tech from each other, and it changes the entire context around the high level play in the game.
Mhm.
If you're just struggling to hit infinite, then you still have that entire grind and you still have that entire thing. But for the infinite player, the engaged player base, I think it's important to have something to keep them coming back, and I think tournaments do that.
Until
far as-
Snap is able to do something for that end game content and
Mhm.
provide that extra commitment to getting back into the game. And it sucks that the tournaments don't do anything for your progression in that game. Like you don't get the twisters, you don't get anything, which again, I understand, but you know, it's a missed opportunity.
We just need spectator mode. We'll get there.
It is an interesting point that you kind of brought up towards the end in terms of like people wanting to kind of keep their things secret for the tournament. And there was like, even me like leading up to the third Golden Gauntlet, I was like kind of playing different decks on the ladder a little bit, just like not wanting to, like the last thing I want to do is start winning a bunch with Hella and then more people bring Stardust to the tournament or something, like in some like hyper specific example that probably would not be super realistic to happen.
Since you only get one loss, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But like on the other side of that, I reached out to Danish before the tournament and I was just like, hey, what list are you thinking of right now? Like, do you have anything super spicy that you think might be worth looking into for this tournament? And I reached out to Hella Enjoyer because I was also thinking about like some sort of ongoing tribunal list and just wanted to make sure I was utilizing all of the resources that I potentially have at my advantage. So I do wonder. Now, I think that collaboratively players are stronger. So if you can test with someone for the tournament, and if you can't, hopping into conquest mode or hopping onto ladder is still better than not doing it. But yeah, it is kind of interesting that there's a slight incentive to keep something secret. Like, will you get a player that sends you their winning deck list a week before the tournament if that's something that they kind of want to play? And will they be a little bit less likely to play it at the top level? That could be something interesting.
Very true. As far as casting goes, I loved it. I had the time of my life. It was genuinely great. I think Parry carried me, honestly. I don't think many people know the game better than I do. But I was trying to explain more high-level stuff while Parry got us through all the like energy play-by-play stuff. I think he was genuinely unbelievable. If you're not following Parry Manilow, please do so.
Yes.
I thought I did fine. I thought I was okay. I did listen back to it because I wanted to I thought I was good. I think when calling out like the meta and what moves people are making, I don't think there are many people in the game better than I am. I understand that I've spent this much time. I really should. But I understand this game at a level very few people do. I'm able to analyze it in real time at a level very few people do. I could have brought more energy and stuff. I had to wake up at 5 a.m. for mic check, and I've started working, so I was a little tired. But overall, I think it did pretty good. I think Parry did absolutely amazingly. I think the other cast did absolutely amazingly. I don't know if it's bias or just my opinion, but I think Parry is the best caster in the game, period, bar none. And I think we work well together. I think we did good. I was happy with it. The amount of team work the team does is completely amazing and insane. Different levels of work, obviously, from different people, but the gunnies, the models, the guests, the techs, the cams, they did amazing work. And I'm very happy to be a part of it. I think that the viewer experience is only improving too from the first one, which was which was good, but like had a lot of work to be put into it. They've gotten better each time. I think the chat in Discord has gotten better each time, genuinely. From like the second one, I think was the one where everyone was very annoying. Because everyone was like, but where's the giveaway? But where's the giveaway? And it's just like, can we fucking talk about the games? Like, you stop, like, chill out. So I think everything's have gotten specifically better, and I've really enjoyed it. I didn't shout out Nick the Greek Geek or the White Wayne Brady because when I need something, they're both inevitably asleep. I'll be like, I need a
us.
video. I need a video to be posted. I need to talk about it. And they're like inevitably asleep. And this is apparently the only thing that can keep them both awake for long amounts of time because they must sleep every 3 hours, exactly on 3 hours, as soon as I'm ready for a video to go live. So Nick the Reeking and the White Wing Brady are great Discord mods for these tournaments. Just, would you like them to be on time for anything?
Hey.
Maybe perhaps you need a different crew.
The originator of the schedule needs to have a schedule before anybody can work around it, little Mr. Schedule
I have
Man.
a very obvious schedule right now that that is exactly the same time every day, but that's fine. In the meantime, I think viewing the tournaments is absolutely amazing. It's a dream. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to compete again. Hopefully I get to cast again because I think my wife will leave me if I spend all of a Saturday or Sunday. Like maybe if it's like overnight, I can do it and just not sleep. But like we only really have weekends to hang out. So if I spend all of a Saturday or Sunday being like, you know how I spend every evening night doing Marvel Snap stuff? Well, also go be alone on Saturday and Sunday with our kid. I might be single. And I don't really want to be single. I'm old and love her and stuff. But like the casting and viewer experience is great. I plan to now that people can co-cast, I plan to if I'm not invited to officially cast, I hope I am once more. There is no information inside or outside. I don't believe the next one has really even begun. Like I think it's still in the very, very initial phases of planning. So I think they've started, but like it's in the conversation stage. But whatever. If I'm not invited back, then I plan to fully cast from right here at twitch.tv/PulseGlazer some of the tournament. And yeah, I think it's great. I think it's genuinely great now that all of this is allowed. I think we're really building a truly core community, and I think Snap probably needs that.
And I just want to jump in, and I think you do yourself a disservice when you don't give yourself the same level of credit. Because yes, Perry is an amazing caster, but your explanation, it was a very perfect tie-in and combination between the two of you because you provided that extra detail. Perry gets very excited and he's very engaged and very knowledgeable about the game, but you have that very fine detail to explain those moves that I think a lot of the normal playing population that plays the games, hits infinite, even professional streamers don't have the same level that you're able to see in getting all the decks that you get. And I think that provides such a valuable casting part. And I think when you've got someone who is as high energy as Perry is, I think, you do have that energy, but you balance that off and provide, I think, a good connection between those two areas. And I think I've seen you guys casting on your streams when you have your streamathon, which reminds me, we're due for another one of those.
I know, but I've been trying to figure out how to bring it up to you and be like, when do you feel like being up all night, Nick?
Soon, very soon, because it's definitely due, and I would love to see you and Perry casting again in there because it's even nicer when it's a casual casting environment. So. Anyway, I could rave on and on about this, but anybody that's heard you guys knows that you guys work well together, and your casting ability is 10 out of 10.
Thank you, appreciate it. I will work to. I'm appreciative, but I don't agree. I think I need to be better, and I'm going to work on it. This is the truth. All right, any final tournament-y stuff thoughts?
Don't think so. I guess I think I probably said this, but I don't remember if I said this before we were recording potentially too, but I have all of my games from the Golden Gauntlet 3 as a video on my YouTube channel. So definitely check that out if you want to see kind of just like firsthand what I'm talking about with some of the examples I mentioned in terms of how I'm thinking out my plays. All of it's narrated with live commentary for both the Golden Gauntlet and then also the Snap Wars League, all of those games as well. And just a lot of fun and high level Marvel Snap with all of that.
I am going to verbally fillet you in about 5 minutes, so we're going to hold on to that for now. But yeah, I really love your content, like without any joke. Again, I've watched games I've never seen on his channel because I really enjoy his content. Yeah. Like it's content I've watched for years. So, all right.
Appreciate it.
Our variant of the week for this week is Ghost. We liked the same Ghost. Everyone picked the Dan Hip. Anyone want to talk about why?
I'm a Dan Hip enjoyer. Now, the Ghost is pretty limited on variants, and I kind of thought they were all great, to be honest, including the base variant, which has like a nice like purple background that's very vibrant. But I like Dan Hip. I like Chibi. The other options were Ghost were both like photo real, which I also enjoyed. But Dan Hip pretty consistently does a great job, and you get to see some of the action here of Ghost coming through the wall, which is fun.
Yeah, I think this is one of Dan Hip's better variants, and he's got a lot of good ones, but I love the animation on this one, and I think it's just the colors pop, the line work really, really works for this variant, and you got to see it animated. If you haven't seen it animated, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. Ghost also, I genuinely don't, this is probably just me, I don't really like the design of Ghost. I like the tech like cloak thing doesn't work for me, and I don't really know why. It just doesn't do very much for me. So this Ghost, which feels more ghostly, right? Like this feels more like a ghost, works much better for me. You can still see its tech, but in the cartoony style, I think it works a lot better. Then I think there's something silly about her design otherwise, where I feel like it's trying really hard to look cool in cyberpunk. And like the Dan Hip version isn't try hard, and so I like it a lot. And like again, hey, if you like the other ones, more power to you. I'm not telling you what to like. I'm telling you how I feel about it. I think Ghost design feels very like I hate Sephiroth because Sephiroth feels like he was focus tested to be cool. Right? Like he was like a committee sat down at a table and was like, what do we do to make Dante from Devil's May Cry? It's why I don't like the Devil's May Cry games, right? Like because like that's focus tested cool. I feel like Ghost design has a lot of the same traits in it, and because it has a lot of the same traits in it, it's not really for me. And just for the record, Cable doesn't give me at all the same feeling because I think Cable started the trend. He didn't copy the trend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, he was the steampunk origination kind of.
Yeah, well, it was like Rob Liefeld was like, here's a bunch of cool ideas in my like barely out of my teens mind, right? Like, and that like wasn't a part of pop culture, and he made it a part of culture. And like, so Cable like gets a pass. Like Deadpool gets kind of a pass for that kind of like thing for me, because Rob Liefeld was like the originator of that type of weirdness. Versus like a lot of people were like, we're going to design all our stuff to look like this, and it's like, all right, well. Okay, I guess. Unless you did it in the early 90s, I don't really want to see it. But like this Ghost is so good.
What's going on with her legs though? That I never really noticed that until now.
I think it's her left leg is stepping through the wall. It's bent at the knee. You can't see her right leg. It's still behind the wall. At least I'm pretty sure what's happening. I played a lot more Ghosts than anyone should.
Yeah. I remember that's I think that's one of your bugaboos that you have regret for is because you've talked about it on multiple occasions how much you thought Ghost was going to be like a game changer of a card.
My first deck of excuse me, breathing is hard right now with this cold. My first deck that I was really good with was Sarah Miracle, and like I didn't own a lot of the cards, so it was a control deck, and like the whole game was just playing for prio, right? Like if you're playing a Killmonger Shang-Chi version of Sarah Miracle, what you're ultimately trying to do is you're trying to figure out how to throw prio a lot of the game. Like, and so I was like, oh well, I could just play Ghost and then just play my cards as usual and win. And it turns out that like playing for prio was still better. And you never needed Ghost for anything. Like, if you really want to throw a prior, there are games where the entire game comes down to is prior or not, right? And learning that, how important that is and how that works is one of the more important parts of Marvel Snap. And Ghost being a way to throw that never ended up really mattering. But she was in my C5, and now... Oh, sorry, she wasn't. No,
well, Goliath also came around and went, oh, you're playing Ghost?
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah. Like, and Negasonic now, and like, there's lots of reasons that you want prio. I do think, honestly, without even like being silly, I think she might now have a home in C4, by the way. Like a C4 has Prodigy that it can use either to like be like, oh, we're going to play your on reveals there, thanks. Sorry, your end of turns there, thanks. But really, Prodigy is just an extra way to get a second Cerebro.
Yeah.
So I think there might be some legs there. Like one leg there for this Ghost. Is that a good way to transition out of this? Let's go.
Perfect.
Follow No Lux Given. No Lux, why should they follow you? You did this a little early, but do it again.
Yeah. So I so for me, creating content is just kind of like a hack because I like playing games and I feel more productive when I'm playing games if I'm also creating content around
Mm-hmm.
them. And that's really the whole genesis behind my channel. I play games that I think are fun and that I have fun playing, and then I share those experiences with people. So that does dip me a little bit more into variety than some other Marvel Snap creators. I play some other games as well, though. I will say it's a large focus on Marvel Snap to the point where
Mm-hmm.
there are basically daily Marvel Snap uploads, even if there are uploads for other games as well. And I just try to share my passion about the games that I
Mm-hmm.
play with my viewers and also maybe help you learn a thing or two.
Yeah. No Lux makes you better at games you play. I was watching him in Storybook Brawl because I was new to the game, right? Like I just downloaded the game. I don't remember why or when exactly, but I downloaded the game and I was like, huh, I'm winning a decent amount, but I feel like there's something I'm missing. So I started watching his content and I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And like he explained it beautifully and perfectly. And then I was like, I really like watching him explain things. So I kept watching his content. And then I realized he played Marvel Snap. I think actually the first time I realized, I don't remember, did I post on one of your videos? Or did I?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, like
You'd commented. You were an old commenter
yeah.
on my videos. Yeah.
And so I still watch. I don't watch every day because time no longer lets me
Mm-hmm.
watch anything every day. But I watch at least 3 videos a week or so. I really, really love the
Wow.
content. I think it's genuinely worthwhile. It goes on the big screen on my TV. I watch YouTube on the TV now because I spend way too much time at this machine doing the 8,000 Marvel Snap things. But so instead I watch it on TV because that makes me feel better. But but it's the content I watch, right? Like I watch like 4 or 5 Marvel Snap content creators still, and you've always made the cut, and I think you're always going to make the cut, and I hope everyone joins me because it will make you a better player, and you'll have a great time while doing so.
And even if I can't like get in for because I put out long form videos as well, I also put out a bunch of shorts. So if you just
Mm-hmm.
want like a little taste, I've got the shorts for you as well. And I think, as you were kind of talking, I realized that my goal, I think, more than anything else, is to help people think of other ways that they can have fun.
Yeah.
And winning is very fun. So I do want to help you win as well because that will help you have more fun. But once we're there, then it's also like, okay, well, what if we win with this thing? And now I'm playing like a little bit more offbeat decks that are also fun, but also winning. And then I'm doing competitive stuff at the same time.
Very much agreed. Nicholas, you still don't get a slide.
Yes.
Tell us how
That's
to find you. He's a host. We don't do slides for hosts.
Either on someone's stream, Glazers, or one of my fellow Power On Gaming compatriots streams, probably Ika's if he's online. Or you can maybe occasionally find me on my own stream at Nick the Greek Geek. That's with a DA instead of a THE because Twitch didn't let me have that. But yeah, I'm chaos embodied in a stream. You're probably going to see me make 50,000 mistakes and struggle with tech stuff because I'm trying to do too much. But I also have fun and I like engaging with the audience. Yeah, just a big deep sigh of my own inadequacies. Thank you, King Bjorn. I appreciate that. But I try to have fun in stream and I try and engage with people and I like connecting with the community. This community is kind of been my second lease on life. It's been great, and everyone that's a part of it is equally as great. Even if Glazer keeps picking on me and poking me and making fun of me, I don't mind because I know it's out of love.
You were late, and then you hurt my feelings. Wait, why are you pointing at my son? Has just shoved gummy bears and started pointing at them. Would you like a gummy bear? Yeah. Yes, you can have a gummy bear. Sorry.
Oh God, now that song is stuck in my head. Love that.
What song, Nick? Help our viewers get stuck in their head.
Everybody remembers the Gummy Bear song. We all know the Gummy Bear song.
I thought we were not going to sing it. All right. Please do check out patreon.com.
I sung that song one time for chorus in like middle school or something.
Hell yeah. I'm old. Oh God. Because that's when that song came out. That song has been out for a long time. Never mind.
Very old song.
Holy shit, yeah.
All right. Dear chat, if you're interested in checking out our Patreon, please check out patreon.com/SnapJudgeGlazer. I'm going to thank a bunch of people, as fast as I possibly can, starting with Jonesy Snap 22, our Patreon of the month for about 2 months now because we haven't done a streamathon. Thank you to Abigail, Cemetery Burner, Irregardless, Sully B, Inkai, Proston, Hotan, Never, Prime, Brian, Ryan, Burke, Ryanwood, Snap, Remnant, Gopher, Kev, Keltor, Caretex, Lee, Quarry, Kazuchi, Arcade, Escape, Black Dye, Power Frost, The Goat, Seeker Code, Hollowed Synth, Fat Nick, Absolute Shannon, Dirty, Capsule, Miss Dark, Moogle, Mr. Ruffle, Cable, Ginger Prime, Philip, Rackwitch, Haplo, Kangalog, The Biz, Black Jeebus, 23, Extra C, Skippy G, Jessica Gamble, Slusha, The King of Rose, The Great Kazoo, Werewolf, Capsioda, Clam, Colonel Foreman, Rob Sylvan, David G. Stephen Brown, Cover, Jason Martin, Jason B, Matt V, Corbin, John Q, Jim Miku, Yes, Ace Age 1, Big Man, Milkman for Reals. Oh, this is an older one. Cactus Shack, Reapster, Steve O131, Yo Marco, Ted Pro, Quid Pro, Snap Decision Show, Boom, Bot, Bricks, Click, Green Goblin, Unibot, Flan Physics, Special Mix, Hoot, Only Fox, Matt HCG, Mechanic, No Freaking Flex, Nick, The Greek Geek, Tuxus, Wolking, Subject, for the King, Canada, JJ, The Myth, Like a Fowler, Newman, Two Tides, Great, Lauren was the Franking Tucker, and of course, with T. The T stands for Hi, Nick. All right. That's it, everybody. We'll see you next week for more Snap Take, but don't forget to follow No Lux Given on his YouTube, Nick the Greek Geek on his Twitch, and if you're so inclined, Snap Pod on YouTube. Peace and love, everybody.